the lurker was he's actually hacking into the mainframe right now, trying to stop this live stream. That's what's actually going on. We'll see. Let me know if the stream is going strong. I guess my high-powered microphone is shutting down production because that's the only thing I've changed in the last 2 days. It's really cool, though, what I got in front of me. It's like a whole soundboard and obviously this microphone, and it has been told to me that it's the best microphone ever for podcasting. So you guys, I see someone's, you guys asked for it. You demanded perfection in the audio department. I'm just joking, but I want it to sound good. And I know a lot of people also just listen podcast style. So trying to figure out this stinking audio, this dangong audio, dangom, how do you even say it? Dagom, someone call Heidi, find out. Oh no, instantly frozen. Oh no, what the heck? What happened? Is it my settings? Oh God, okay, let's see. No, it's not. Can we? Wow. I don't know, man. I guess, honestly, I think our spirit guides are telling us to shut up. Stop talking about the Hollises. Because I haven't done anything different. I have absolutely no reason why it should be buffering. Unless it's a YouTube thing, but damn. Okay. Welp, I guess we will meet again sometime later in the future. I don't know what's happening. I don't have any troubleshooting, because normally if it's something I can fix, I will, but I really don't know. Is it getting better? Okay, I see some people say it's getting better. Some people say it's still bad. Okay, it's working. Good so far, after refreshing. Okay. I'm nervously optimistic. Keeps freezing. Okay. Spoke too soon. Everyone meditate on this for 5 minutes, and the world shall shift in our vibrations. Will bring up this. It's working now. Okay. Well, maybe we should just give it a little lag time. Hit refresh, still freezing. Daggum. Okay, refresh gave me some ads, and then it worked. Okay, maybe it's the ads. Maybe I should turn off ads in the beginning. Okay, working for me. Working for me. If it's working for you, it's working for me. Okay. So, I don't know what I said in the last one. Doesn't matter because that's deleted forever. So, let's see what Dave has to say today.
Turns out you can have a full life without putting it all on social media.
Okay, working now, good. Maybe just needed to roll with the punches. This stream, starting and then stopping the stream, has been so hard. But you need to go through the hard in life to feel the good. And that's what I learned this week, listening to insane people talk about self-care and self-help. Okay, all right, we're good. I ain't leaving. Unless we freeze again, then I might just go, fall off the face of the earth, never come back, delete my account. I'm just kidding. I'll make a website and then I'll put on it. Just email me from now on. No more streams. Just email or join my booty workout class. That's the only way that you can communicate with me. Is anyone here from Canada?
We have a lot of really great friends from Canada.
Poutine in the house? Ooh. Okay, good. We woman-fested it. Oh, hold on. I have applause. We woman-fested it, everyone. Okay, so Dave, lay off, all right? Stop hacking into the mainframe. We're going to do this stream whether you like it or not, hopefully. Knock on wood. Okay, good. All right, so we have a little bit of updates. Last time we streamed, I kind of went till like 1 a.m, my bedtime, and we didn't get to talk about Rachel's tips for when you're 20 years old or whatever. So, okay, all good. Thank you for your help. Steven helped, and he was cooking, so he helped me focus. And just moral support. Okay, good. Sweet. I'm glad we're all here. All right, so so last time, let's just recap. Let's do a little refresher of what's going on, because if you missed last week, if you miss a week of following these people online, meaning Heidi, Dave, or Rachel, you will probably miss like an entire section of what's important at the moment, which is weird that that's true, but it definitely is true, so I'm not exactly sure why. So Dave and Heidi. Oh, also, how is the audio sounding? Do you love it? Can you notice a difference? I hope so. So what were we talking about? Dave and Heidi. Now, they had a podcast we listened to where they were talking about their breakup in like the most roundabout ass way possible. Meaning that they alluded to some anger and some problems, but didn't address it. Dave had mentioned going through treatment, didn't necessarily mention alcohol too much in the podcast, at least. He sort of mentioned it in his post that he was back on Instagram. Now, someone sent me a shot of him posting about workouts today, but then I went on my other account to look at it, and it wasn't there. I don't know if he deleted it, or I looked at his Facebook too, and then I went down a whole Facebook rabbit hole today. So, thank you, Claire Davis. Also, I got 2 of them. Oopsies, just one. We just need one. Well, maybe in that case. Okay, whatever. Thank you for subscribing. This is a cluster. Thank you for bearing with me. We're going to get through this. So here's Dave's Instagram. So this is the only post. If you didn't see this, Dave's back. He's behind me back, and he's also back on Instagram, but not really. He's here to tell us that he's not coming back to Instagram or social media. He is just going to grace us with his presence once in a while, mostly through Heidi's, and friends. Oh, thank you, Kendall Sue. Okay. Would I ever consider covering my thoughts on the Johnny versus Amber case? I'd be super interested to know what you think. Yeah, I would. I know Camellia has been covering it to some degree on her channel. And my fiance, Steven, who I mentioned a minute ago, we'll just call him Steven from now on. Can we all agree? He's Steven. I hate saying like my fiance, my boo thing, my boyfriend. I just don't know who knows him or thinks I'm talking about some random person. So Steven watches it like on YouTube a lot all day, and he'll give me the updates like, oh my God, this just happened. Then she said this, and the lawyer said this, and then the psychologist said this, and then her face was like this. So we talk about it. I need to do a lot more research to give like a good perspective on it. But yeah, I'd be interested in that. But I just need to say for the record, it may cause me to cry, but
It's okay to cry.
So Heidi said it's fine, so I guess I'm good to go. Thank you, Kendall Sue. I appreciate that. Okay, so Dave basically said he's gone from the internet, but then you can email him. So I signed up for his email, of course. I used my YouTube email, so he might not ever send me an email. But I signed up as Shmeya. Shmeya, so he doesn't know it's me, even though in my email it says my username, Kia. So we'll see how that goes. I'll give you the updates. He basically sent an email. It's all automated, whatever. And it was basically like, "Oh, friend, so great to have you here," and whatever else. It was, his typical voice. So he's in the private community, the booty workout, squirrel booty workouts, and he's also lurking on Instagram. Someone said, sent me this thing where he was talking about leg day or something. Anyways, That's where he's at. So they stopped the podcast at the end. Oh, thank you, SETV. They stopped the podcast halfway through their conversation because, ironically, they were talking about, oh my gosh, we're so much better, apart. We don't ever need to be together again. I'm never going to be with a man again. Like we were codependent, da-da-da-da. And they're like, oh, well, you have to get on the plane to come out and fly to be with me. It was so ironic, moronic. I don't know what the correct word is for that case. So they cut the podcast and they said, okay, this has to be another episode. So that second episode came out, and apparently I have not gotten through it because, as you may know, it's difficult to get through a Dave Hollis podcast, especially when I'm not breaking it down online in real time, as they say, because I zone out. The sentences run on forever. So, I don't know. It's like, even in the car, I'm more interested in the bumper stickers and the colors of the vehicles around me than I am what David Hollis has to say. So I tried to get through it. I listened to the first half. They're trying to be like a little bit. I think on this one they tried to, which I shouldn't fault them for because I appreciate a little bit of creativity. However, this is cringe-tivity. In the sense of they're playing throughout the podcast their voice memos that they send to each other, I guess, is the vibe they're going for. So I don't know. I think if it was executed a little better, it could be sort of a good storytelling device. But because their audio's not the best, it's kind of like I can't tell if they're in the voice memo mode or if they're in the this is the podcast mode. But much more of Heidi complaining about doing her only job that she has, and then they also talk about internet haters, and that's the part I'm kind of interested in. We got a new Rach talk we can watch as well. She pretty much, I don't know, she's in another police situation. The last time she talked about being involved in a crime scene, or not a crime scene necessarily, but an emergency services situation. She was talking about a man who had passed away at the park on her run, 10 miles, of course, on her 10-mile run. And, oh no, it's streaming again. God. No. Stream issues. Lord. Okay, good on my end. Okay, a couple people are still good. All right, we're going to see. I'll try to keep reading the comments. Oh, gosh. No, I'm so sad. No connection issues. Okay. Is everyone on Chrome, or is there like a certain, or on their phones or something? Is there a certain thing that's causing these issues? Let's see. Maybe it's a eCam issue. Let's just search before I keep going. Freezing. Okay, everyone hyperventilate for 5 seconds. Okay, eCam issues. This is how I stream. Maybe Twitter? I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to hold off for a second. Better. I need a technician. I need an IT person. Maybe because I added stuff. I added some things. I don't know. I added a widget. Okay. Anything better? I'm just kind of taking a break for a second. I'm just searching the programs I use to see if there's a widespread issue. eCam. And if you see the link below, I don't think this is a great advertisement for it, but this is the streaming software I use. No, they're not announcing anything. Okay, now better? Are we back to normal? Is it the audio only, or is it everything? Maybe it is the audio. Maybe that's too much for this system to handle. Maybe it's too much. I see Olivia. Thank you. I don't know what's going on with the internet. Let's get rid of that. Maybe that was it. More Hollis parody songs, please. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe we can write one together. Send me lyrics. I have some ideas. Okay, good now. Okay. Yeah, I can only handle so much sass. I guess I need to be nicer. Every time it starts buffering, I guess I need to like roll it back a little bit and get a little bit sweeter. Sweet like Tennessee whiskey. All right, so let's just start before we get too deep.
Hey guys.
And I want to start with, and I hope everyone's okay with it, I want to start with Rachel's 20-year-old advice, because there was several things in this that I found to be problematic, to say the least, as I usually say. Working on your phone. Tech issues are frustrating. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. It's happening in real time. I have my camera set up on a box, a cardboard box, and I'm also sitting on the floor. So, what can I do? I'm just kidding. That's Heidi's setup. Okay. Dave, stop it. You're causing too many problems. I said you could sit back there and type on Word your next book, but I didn't say you could mess up the stream. Come on. Okay. Yeah, the chat's always delayed for me, so that's nothing new. It's always a little bit behind, but as long as it's not buffering too long or you can't hear anything. Okay. All right, let's continue. So, which time zone? Okay. All right, so we're going to start. This is Rachel Hollis's If I Was in My 20s. Now, I want to point out something before we actually start this. That's the premise. She's going to give advice to, if she was 20 again, what she would do with her life. Because we all care. I mean, I do, sort of, but everyone else cares what her advice is. And I actually found a couple years ago that she had done this already, this exercise of what advice she would give. And I think her advice 2 years ago was better. And I don't know what's changed. Well, she got canceled is what happened, but again. But I was sort of surprised to find, well, I don't know. Am I surprised anymore? She basically repeats a lot of her content. I mean, she came out with her one about anxiety today, and she's talked about anxiety like a million times. She said a lot of honestly, dumbass stuff in that podcast that came out today, including that we're all just addicted to the not we all, people with anxiety, which is me. So anyone with anxiety is just addicted to the adrenaline. Okay, that was a blanket statement she made. Also, said that, she's not against medication for anxiety, but she's also against medication for her. But then she said, if you need your meds, take your fucking meds, which I found to be pretty harsh and aggressive of a tone to use with people, especially people suffering with mental illness. And like people who need their effing meds are the same people who think they don't need medication sometimes. So, who are you talking to? And then she said that, her brother should have taken his meds and that's why he's not here with us and all that stuff. And it was just kind of a weird thing. And then she also said that she basically cured herself of anxiety from reading self-help books. So I don't know. I don't think that's great. She did talk about therapy a little bit, but very generally just saying like, I've done all the therapy. I don't know what that means. It doesn't really provide a whole lot of value to me to say like, generally you've done, the therapy. It's probably a YouTube issue. If the chat's going slow, it's probably YouTube. So that's actually good. Because like I said, on my screen, we're talking about tech issues now, not Rachel Hollis. It's probably through their system. And maybe Twitter's got something about it too. But yeah, so that was from today's podcast. What else did she say? Oh, she also said that if you drink coffee, too much caffeine, It's the same. Your body doesn't know the difference between caffeine, too much, and a panic attack. And as someone who's experienced panic attacks for a long time, not recently, but a long time, because I went to therapy, I haven't experienced them. And I've been on medication in the past. So I'm a big supporter of medication. I know the difference between caffeine, jitters, and anxiety. So that was not true, at least for me as well. All right, so let me find the old 20-year-old stuff. I was on her Facebook today too, and I ended up spending like way too much time on it. Everyone can hear, everyone can see, everyone's cutting out. I'm gonna blame YouTube. YouTube stream issues. Okay, let's see. People are saying that they're having stream issues yesterday. I don't know. Okay, let's just keep going and we'll talk into the void, and then I get this recording on afterwards. It saves. It's like recording on my computer, so I can always post it, and I don't think it's lagging on here. So if no one can hear me this whole time, I'll keep going. I'll edit the parts out where I'm talking about tech issues, and then you can watch it just to get the information. Okay. So let's see. Here's Rachel's 2020 advice, which I said I think is better. Okay, good. Audio issues fixed, solved. I did switch my microphone, so, that could be the reason. Okay, so Rachel claims that on December 4th, 2020, she said, got this DM. I doubt she did, but maybe in 2020, because she wasn't totally canceled yet. Can you give advice to 20-somethings specifically? I know I'm younger than most of your followers, but I love you anyway. Sure. Okay, I see you, sis. Here are 10 things I wish I had known at 23. Number 1, 99% of the people whose opinion you're so worried about, you won't even remember their names 5 years from now. It's a waste of energy, promise. Number 2, your mental and emotional health are way more important than your abs or the shape of your butt. Yes, you should care about your physical health, but if you really want to have a good life, do the therapy, okay, support, read the books. No, don't support that because you're not specifying which books. The woo-woo books ain't that great. Like, don't read Girl Wash Your Face if you want to get mentally stronger. But I know what she's saying. Learn the skills that will help you thrive emotionally. Okay. Number 3, enjoy your sexuality. Yes, I went there. Is your thing to explore and understand, hoping that your partner will just magically know what you're going to love when you don't even know what you love is frustrating for everyone. So speak up. If you're grown up enough to have sex, then you're grown up enough to communicate what you do and don't like while you're having it. Okay? And this one did not age well, I think, for her, perhaps. Her eyebrows have changed quite a bit over the last 2 years. Anastasia eyebrow kit equals game changer. Okay. Menstrual cup, better than tampons by a factor of about 1 million. Okay, I've never tried it. I don't know. 6, real friends won't bully you or put you down. Real friends hype you up and give you energy. Real friends support you as you grow. Real friends don't sabotage. Real friends bring joy to your life, not drama. It's better to enjoy your solitude and work on yourself than settle for anything less than real friends. Okay, now we're almost done. Number 8, embrace failure. You're going to have to fail 1 million times if you want anything special in life. Failing is how we figure out the right way to go about something. Don't fear failure. Fear living the same mediocre life as everyone around you because you are too afraid of them seeing you stumble. It's very on brand, like oh, don't live a mediocre life. I don't want to live a mediocre life. Like, oh yeah, like your life is so great, like this exceptional marriage, divorce, exceptional business, no longer really functioning at any sort of comparable level to where, 2 years ago. And this is something, I'm not going to show the clip today, but I found a weird PBS article or video that I hadn't seen before. Oh, thank you, Lori Wisman. Lori WMSN. You rock. Oh, you rock. Thank you. Here's a question. Do you want to be besties with Heidi?
We're best friends.
We're best friends now. But just keep in mind,
I am not emotionally stable.
so please support me and all my emotional needs. Now, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, here's the two that she's most interested in, I'm sure. Rachel. Oh, I was going to say about the PBS. Okay, so PBS, there's this weird, I never had heard of it before. It was this like story, like a video about how amazing Rachel is and how it came out in like 2021, which is kind of, stupid of the reporter not to have done any research. But she said in that interview, Rachel said that her first virtual rise, the one that she did before divorcing Dave, Rise Virtual Weekend or whatever, the sales of that were like up 500% or something insane like that. Like they had made more money from that and they didn't have to go anywhere and hire like event people and planners and stuff to do it, that they got to, the percentage was like 500% or something like that. I'll have to play the clip at a different video, but she acts like, oh, COVID, like my event business really went under because of that. It's like, that's not what she said in this interview. So it really was her cancellation, it seems, that has caused her business just to go, totally down. So we'll talk about that interview because I think the reporter brings up a lot of issues, and not brings up issues, but the way she asks questions and the way Rachel responds, they're both leading each other down a path to tell a story and a narrative that's not true. And it's very interesting to watch. And I think it's important to like break stuff like that down because, Rachel says, people are mad at me because I'm too positive. And the reporter's like, people are mad at you for that? She's like, yeah, like when I got divorced, everyone was mad at me because I'm a woman. And no one got mad at Dave. And she's like, oh, that's awful. That's so horrible. And, like there's no pushback at all, nothing. It's just like frustrating to see. Anyways, okay. Number 9, Rachel's most important number for 20-year-olds. Someday, your body won't be able to process vodka and Red Bull anymore. Enjoy it while it lasts. Okay. And someday, your body won't be able to process caffeine after 2 p.m. Enjoy that too. Well, those are two things that Rachel was supposed to give up after she talked to Dr. Amen, the brain quack doctor that I did a video about, who's, full of shit. He's really a psychiatrist, but he just, gives you all these fluffy things and charges you thousands of dollars that you don't need to spend to get, mental health care. Anyways, okay, so that was her in 2020. Now we're going to hear Rachel Hollis give advice to 20-year-olds in 2022. And she doesn't give this caveat. I'm going to start it like 6 minutes in because the first 6 minutes essentially is the intro music, her talking about the weather once again, and that's it. And saying like, oh, she knows so many 20-year-olds, that all her audience is now 20-year-olds, and to also call her hotline because that will give her, happiness or whatever, give her joy. So we're going to skip that part. If you want to listen to it, I promise there's nothing exciting, but feel free. I always, I want to make it seem like I'm trying to mislead anyone to, just hear the things I think are bad, to make them look bad or anything. But I digress. Okay, so she's going to give her advice. Now, before listening to this, I think she should have said, this is a caveat for people who are already wealthy or come from a wealthy family that have financial backing, because a lot of the things she says are very pretentious and or can only be really utilized by the upper echelon of the class system in America. Definitely only in America, much out of the United States, probably a lot of, people in their 20s cannot follow these amazing guidelines and tips that she's giving. And the funny thing is, as I say, she contradicts herself a ton in every interview and every podcast. From one sentence to the next, it's like the opposite of what she just said. But this one's interesting because she'll say, you're not too old. This advice can be used if you're 40 years old or 50 years old, doesn't matter. Like, just take this advice and use it. But the advice she gives, she does not take herself. And we'll get to why, and I'll break it down. Okay. Let's begin. Here we go. Starting at minute 6 of the If I Was in My 20s ... podcast.
Take it or leave it, but I'm...
Oh, I gotta raise it up quite a bit. Okay. Let me know how this sounds in comparison to my voice.
Give it. All right. So let's talk about it. My friends, my girls, my loves. I made a list of... I basically called this If I Were in My 20s. If I were in my 20s. You could also call this like things I wish I had known or things I wish I had done. But essentially, if I was in my 20s, this is the stuff that came to my mind. And if you're in your 20s, or frankly, if you're in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s, this, I hope, is still going to be relevant to you. But if you know someone that this podcast will be helpful for, send it along. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, whether you're listening to it, wherever you get your pods, just, do that little share thing and send it to someone who matters. So let's start off. If I was in my 20s, the first thing I wrote down on this list was I would be single. Okay, now that, depending on where you grew up, is probably a pretty
Just remember... She's about to say it's a controversial issue, which I'm like, where are you from? You live 2 hours from LA. It's not like you lived, she lived in Weed Patch near Bakersfield, but she acts like she lived in, the upper foothills of, a mountaintop in Nepal. Like she has, it's very controversial where I'm from. It's like, what? You didn't live in a bubble. Anyways, but she could be single right now. This woman has spent, so I'm not counting her teen years, right? 18 plus. Like, I'm not going to look at Rachel as a child today. But from 18 to 39, what she is now, she's been single a total of like 6 months total in that whole period of time. So the fact that you're like, oh, my advice if I was to go back in time would be to be single. It's like, girl, be single now. What is stopping you? What is stopping you? Nothing. Well, security, comfort, celebrity friends, her entire personality, those things. But, okay, louder, which one? Me louder or her louder? Louder, okay. I think it is delayed. Okay. Anyways, I think this is such a cluster today. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me know in 5 minutes if this is better. All right. Yes. So let's continue.
Controversial idea, because I don't know anyone who is not in their 20s and looking for love. Like if they're single, they're either in a partnership or they are looking for love. And I definitely was not raised to think that I should be in my 20s and be single. I was raised to be like, you better find a man and get married as fast as possible and then have babies. And I did. But I wrote this down because, like, look, my only perspective is as someone who met my ex-husband when I was 18 years old. First date I went on, first time I kissed a man, and I married him. Okay, so that gives you an idea of my wild backstory. But then I only have the perspective of someone who got married very young, had babies very young, and spent my 20s and the core of my 30s married. So I understand that I am telling you or giving you advice not having experienced 5 years of being single in my 20s. And you could roll your eyes and be like, screw you, you don't know what it feels like. And again, take what will be helpful here. But the reason that I would be single is because there will be a time, my friends, there will be a time where you are married. There will be a time where you are trying to figure out how to pay the electric bill. There will be a time where you have responsibility, where if the sink breaks, you're the one who has to figure out how to fix it. There will be a time where you're trying to like, oh, wait, we got to pay our taxes. Are we trying to do that ourselves? Are we asking our parents for advice? Are we going down to like, how do we do any of this? There is going to be a time where you are so steeped in responsibility and you will never get back out again. That's not a bad thing. Having responsibilities is a privilege. It's a beautiful part of life. But there is this finite moment in time where you don't have the level of responsibility you will have. And so if I could.
So she's kind of just going on, and I'm seeing, I can't tell if it's delayed, super delayed, because I put it up quite a bit, the volume, so it looks like it's right, but let me know for sure, Ken. Right now it's 8:49 Eastern Standard, so let me know. I'm assuming it's better, but just in case. So basically she's like, everyone I know that's in their 20s is looking for love. I have not found that to be my experience. I'm 30, so I'm now older, and it's a little bit different. I think people when they were 28, 29 might have started kicking into maybe, okay, I should think about settling down sometime soon, or at least like get on track to figure out what I want. But in my 20s, especially my early 20s, not one person except for like a couple high school friends that was their choice to like have kids and stay back, and that's what they wanted to do. But the majority of people who are just kind of like going to college and getting out and figuring out their jobs, none of them were really looking for the one at that point. I feel like she thinks of life as like, oh, The Bachelor. Like those girls are, women on The Bachelor are like 21, 22, and they're like, I want to get married tomorrow. I'm a spinster. But that's not real life. That's just one little aspect. I don't personally think that this is a worldwide, thing. Like every woman in their 20s is obsessed with finding a man and getting married. First of all, not every woman in their 20s is seeking a man in the first place. They could be looking for a polyamorous relationship, a same-sex relationship. Like I'm not saying like fault her for not bringing those up, but it's just kind of a stereotype. Like, oh, everyone, is looking for love at 20. It's like, I was terrified. I still am about settling down and doing all that. So that's kind of a false statement to me, but she'll actually talk about LGBTQ issues a little bit further down in this podcast, surprisingly. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. But let's finish this part up about her being single. And then the next one is like her being single again. So there's a lot of single talk in this, which is so ironic because she's never been single and she could be single if she chose to. It's like, I don't think Says Dark is holding her hostage.
Wave a wand and I'm back in my 20s. Or I'm giving advice to you in your 20s. Oh my word, embrace the single life. Embrace it. And I'm not saying like go make out with 1,000 people. If that's your jam, I am the least judgmental person you are ever going to meet. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about be single so you can like go do all.
Okay, sorry to cut it off again. She said she's the least judgmental person you'll ever meet. I want to go back and cut all of the things that she says she is the best at. She's the only hippie. Hold on, I have that clip. Stand by.
But also, am I the only hippie?
She's the only hippie. She's the only one that knows what a car wash is. She's the most positive person you'll ever meet. She's the least judgmental person you'll ever meet. She's the most ambitious person you'll ever meet. It's like, you can't, whatever. She probably thinks she's all those things, but it just, after the fifth thing that you say that you are the number one of, it just, all of the other things you've said kind of go, okay, this is just how you are. None of this is necessarily true.
Things I'm talking about, be single so you can experience life on your terms. So you can figure out who you are. So you can travel. So you can read. So you can spend a whole day taking a nap or watching Netflix or going on a hike or volunteering in your local community center. Like, go be single and enjoy it and embrace it, because right now life is only up to you. Everyone is rushing so hard into being part of a partnership that they don't get that opportunity to figure out what they like, what they want. And as someone who knows what it's like to come out the other side of an 18-year relationship, I know what it's like to be 38 years old and have forgotten parts of yourself and not know what you like and not know what you dislike, because everything was about the couple. So yeah.
So again, she's like giving advice that she should be taking right now. It's like, oh, well, you know, like I don't know. I think it's very obvious that she doesn't have really any sort of personality outside of boss babe, you know, wife at the time of Dave, mom of 4. That's her personality. Like, mom of 4 with career and ambitious, has dreams. Like, that's her. And now that she's she's not single. Now that she's with someone else, she's with Says. Now she's saying, oh, well, you know, I'm this hippie that he is because he doesn't want to wear. And this is a whole part of this too, where she talks about the eco-friendliness. And that's where I got really pissed off, because it's like so judgmental. She's the least judgmental person. Okay, yeah, whatever. 2 minutes later, she's talking about how women buying Zara is like hurting women. It's like, shut up. Anyways, so her whole personality is like writing music. Okay, oh, it just so happens her boyfriend's in the music industry. It's like she doesn't know who she is. So it seems, you know, to me, but who am I? Just a simpleton from Florida. She is a country bumpkin from California. So, you know, who's giving the good advice here?
I'm not saying like break it off with your boo. I really wanted to give this advice because if you are single, I want you to love it. I know so many young women in their 20s who are so obsessed with finding their person that they are never getting to know the person that they are. So I'd be single.
You could be right now. All right, commercial break.
There's only one place to start. Covered. Of you. Single life is I would at Zola.com. That's ZOLA.com.
ZOLA. Your mom.
The second piece of advice I would give, and this goes right along with single life, is I would date casually. So I never really got to experience this in my life.
Okay. Again, what is stopping you, Rachel? She said that she was not wanting to date. She was not interested in dating. She needed to find herself, and that she just so happened to meet this perfect man, British guy. Did you know he's from Europe? Boyfriend who's a millionaire apparently and knows celebrities. Okay, whatever. That she just like happened. God put him in her path. Whatever. The universe, the spirit angels, the demon babies. They all came together at a table and they decided Rachel cannot stay single because she is too good for this world. She needs to be paired with this man for whatever reason, you know, higher purpose that we'll never quite understand. But Now she's saying, oh, I wish I could have casually dated. Okay. And now she's going to talk. I already predicted this. I didn't say it in any of the podcasts before until she confirmed it, but a lot of people assumed that she used Raya, which is like a celebrity dating app, because she said she used a celebrity dating app, but she didn't say which one. Everyone thought it was Raya. That's what she's saying now. But this part is interesting because she elaborates on how she wanted to make friends. Remember, she said she wanted to go on the dating app to make friends. This is the type of friends she was trying to make. She's about to say it.
But I will say that when I was single for the first time in my adult life, on the other side of a divorce, I really, like at first I was like so freaked out by the idea of dating. I still am, to be honest. And so when I wanted to meet people again and sort of get back out into something, I accidentally I think, did it in the most perfect way you can possibly do it, which was I did not set out to date. I did not set out to find a person. I just wanted to make friends. That was my intention. I was on an app called Raya, which is this like ridiculous but very effective for me dating app for people who have high profile jobs. So essentially the idea is like, you know, if I got on like Bumble or I don't even know the other ones, and it was like, oh, here's this chick. I don't know if somebody wants to talk to me because they want to talk to me as a human, or if they want to talk to me because they also want an Instagram following, or they want to have a podcast, or they want. So as a way to hopefully kind of like mitigate that, several different people had told me about this app where celebrities are on it.
They want to get canceled. They want to cause New York Times to write articles about them. Like, you know, just that type of stuff that like men really just want to use her for.
Authors, podcasters, people who have high profile jobs. So hopefully they're not really that thrown off by your job because they also have a job. So my boo has a very high profile job. And so when we met, not only was he not freaked out by what I do, he also had such a beautiful perspective of it because he's dealing with a world like this all the time anyway. So he's not thrown off. I mean, you know,
get ready for like ultimate cringe moment right here. I need a button that's like cringe moment. I have the bump. Okay. Cringe moment coming up right now. Ready? Here we go.
A lot of y'all are so sweet, and so many people come up to me in airports, and we went on a date last night, and like 4 different people throughout the night came up. I was like, Rachel! And I love you guys, and I love your energy. But that could be very off-putting for someone. And I think the reason it all worked so well is because I wasn't trying to find love. I wasn't trying to find a relationship. I literally was like, I just want guy friends. And part of that is, a huge part of that is I tend to gravitate more towards masculine energy. Like if you look at my girlfriends, all of us have a bit more masculine than feminine.
They're gay and they're married together. So therefore, of course, I am more masculine. And I deserve and need guy friends. Everyone knows this about Rachel Hollis, the empowerment woman boss babe of the year of 2019. She is a very masculine woman, for sure. Whatever that means to you. This is like you wanted to date somebody. You were lonely. This is the first time that you've had, single life, but you're also afraid to be alone. So you got on this app, you met the first guy that, was nice to you and cute, and you dated him and you stuck with him because why not? That's your choice. That's what this is. She has to give like 75 excuses of like, well, I'm a Virgo, so us Virgos, we're only allowed to have one female friend. And she did have, women friends, but they seem to have evaporated over time, probably because either one, they didn't want to be associated with her brand and all her friends were like transactional, or she's mean. She's judgmental. She doesn't seem like someone that I'd want to hang out with. She's all about like her own success. And after a while, hearing about like your stories for like the millionth time, it's like, all right, I got it, Rachel. I got it, Rach. We get it.
Rach?
You're really, try hard. But like, I don't know. She's like setting this whole thing up. It's like, oh, everyone knows Rachel Hollis, the guy's girl, the guy's gal. Like, when did that happen? She acted like, oh, she was like the most feminine woman possible. Not feminine, that's not the right word, but like, she was all about women. And now she's like, I have to have guy friends. It just seems kind of counterintuitive to me. But anyways, all right, let's go.
Energy. And so I already knew, like, I am the chick that like, I like hanging out with dudes. I'm like, let's drink some scotch. Let's go to a driving range. It's funny because have
you ever heard her talk about drinking scotch and going to a driving range? Ever in all of the content she's ever put out? One time. Not even putt-putt. She didn't want to do skiing because she's like, I might fall, which is fine. She peed her pants. She pees her pants all the time. That's not a very manly man's girl type of conversation to have. Oh, your tampons lodged in your vagina. You think men want to talk about that and hear about that? I think she wanted to date and she can't admit it to herself. Because she knows it's because the advice is stay single, figure out your shit, and then get into a relationship. She doesn't want to follow that advice. So now she's going to, try to explain it in this like, oh, it all makes sense. And no, it doesn't.
Job is for women, and I'm so passionate about women, but I'm not necessarily feminine energy. And I probably should do a whole podcast on the difference between masculine and feminine energy. It's not really about gender, and it's not really about who you're attracted to. It's just sort of what's the energy that you bring. And I think if you're like me and you know that you're attracted to one kind of energy in a person.
She's not a Virgo. She was born in January, end of January. I don't know what sign that is, but Virgo I know is August. So I just was making it up. Sorry if you're offended. I didn't mean it.
And then you pursue friendships in that way. And I think this even works if you're like, oh, I'm a girl's girl. Like I love feminine energy. Well, even in that, if your pursuit was, yeah, I want a boyfriend because I'm attracted to men, but my goal is going to be to make new friends and experience new things. I feel like that's going to lead you to your person because, yeah, I hope I'm explaining this well. Because I think I told this once to one of the young women on my staff, and then she was like, good idea. And she started to pursue friendships, hoping that the friend would be the one to introduce her to her future husband. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying date casually, having the intention that the universe is going to send you amazing new friends that open your worldview, that change your experience, that give you...
She's so full of shit. I'm sorry. Like, she always like is picking on these like, elusive younger staffer women who just have such bad luck with men. They don't understand that, they're boys and they're searching for the wrong people. And Rachel's there to help clean up their messes and whatever. She's always giving these examples of this, this woman on my team, this younger woman, like, oh, like, can you imagine if you actually were? I don't think these people exist, but if they did, and you were listening to this podcast as part of your career, and she's basically making fun of you, like, oh, yeah, her theory was that she was going to make friends and then, they were going to introduce her. Like, if that's her choice, what do you care, Rachel? You did the same thing, but you're hiding it. Other people are just more open, like, oh, hey, you want to date? You want to get in a long-term relationship? That's your type of thing? Cool. But she's like, oh, be single and date around. I've never done it, but that's my advice for you.
Places to try, new things to go, new concepts to consider. And in that process, you're exposed to more. And in that process, I think you find yourself. And in that process, I think it's possible to find your partner because you're not looking. So the next thing I would do if I was in my 20s is It
really goes against her, you have to set goals. You have to set intentions, or else the universe doesn't know what your desires are. You have to put your universal vibes out there for everyone. She really talks about these.
My guardian angels, my spirit guides.
So it's like, that's totally counterintuitive to, that's why she doesn't believe in this stuff, I don't think, in reality, because everything she says is like not sticking to the actual beliefs of people who have this. Like, if you want a husband, you have to dream, like, I want a husband, I trust the universe is going to bring him to me, I'm going to put my effort into that, as opposed to, I just want to make friends, because the universe is going to give you friends, they're not going to give you a husband. That's what she talked about in her manifestation episodes. Manifest money. If you just think that you don't want money, it's not going to come to you. So it's like all bullshit. She's just, none of this is, it's all throwaway content. All of this, every single thing we've watched so far, none of it's good.
Would 100% have a job that I could do from anywhere in the world. Let me say it one more time. I would have a job that I could do from anywhere in the world, and I would move every 6 months. I think this is the best advice I can get. I think this is the best advice on my list.
I think her best advice, which is just as like applicable as this, is like, just make $1 million. Like, just make $1 million. Why is no one thinking about this? This is great advice. Like, this is going to help you in your life. Just make $1 million. You won't have to suffer anymore. Why is this like, this is amazing advice? That's what she sounds like. Oh yeah, you don't think people want to do that? You don't think people in their 20s would love to go and travel around and, you know, be digital nomads? It's been a trend for like 10 years. This has been a thing. People do it. And a lot of people come back burnt out and without money and find like, okay, I want some stability in my life. And to go and move every 6 months, it's like, I get it, but you have to have money to do that. This is not something that's going to be, okay, I'm coming out of college with 20 to 30 to 50 to $100,000 of debt. I got to find a career. Oh, I'm just going to, just any job is just so easy to do and to get and to afford my life. And like passports, work visas, not important. Just move every 6 months. It's fine. It's like, okay, thanks, Kitty Mervine. Welcome to the chat. I hope it is working for you and that it's not lagging too much anymore. For that, let's go to Dave. Dave says this.
I will slowly buy you a boat.
Dave also says this.
That wasn't nice.
But that was nice, so thank you very much, Kitty. So anyways, okay, so her very relatable advice of just like take all your money that you may or may not have and blow it on traveling every 6 months. And, you know, this is great advice for 20-year-olds just starting off in the world.
I was raised to believe like you find a place to live. This is where you put down roots. I lived in California until I was, 34 years old. 34 years of my life. I did move from my hometown in Bakersfield.
She acts like California. She lived in LA for like, you know, the majority of her adult life. She acts like as if that's, you know, oh, it was like this one light town, this one horse town. It's like you lived in one of the number 2 biggest city in the country, in America, which is a huge country. Like people dream of their whole life of moving there. So it's not really a fair comparison. Like, well, I never moved anywhere. It's like, yeah, well, because you live, like, if you live in New York, it's the same thing. It's like, well, you basically are in the biggest and best place. So, you know, no need. We're going to go to Topeka and be like, oh, well, at least I moved. It's like, okay. I mean, you can if you're trying to get away from the hustle bustle. But anyways, I think most people like move from their town to a bigger city to experience life more. That's what she's talking about. It's just kind of silly. She's like, I didn't move. Look at me. I didn't move for 35 years. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
To Los Angeles, but I lived in the same state for all of those years. And I love Cali and it's my home and I love going back there. But at the same time, there's like a seismic shift that happens inside of you and what you believe is possible when you move to a new city. I mean, frankly, if you're 55 and you've never moved, freaking A, let's go. Some people have put down such incredible roots that it would throw them off to move outside of that space. But honestly, I feel like it's one of the best things that you can do. It's good to be uncomfortable.
She also moved once in her whole life. Well, twice. Weed Patch to LA, LA to Austin. So, and when she moved to Austin, basically the downfall of her company began. And personal life and marriage and, you know. So it actually, just looking at it from a move perspective in her life, it actually was pretty bad. So I don't get it.
It's good to push yourself outside of your boundaries. It's good to figure out where your favorite new coffee shop is, where you're going to go on date night, what's the grocery store that you love. It's good to figure it out. You get so set in a certain way of thinking, you think everything is like the life that you live inside of, for good or bad, right? So like perhaps you're living life way lower than you're able to, like maybe you're vibrationally, like everything around you, the vibe, the energy, the people suck. right? Maybe your hometown sucks.
Your vibes.
Sometimes it does. Or maybe your circle sucks. Like maybe you need to shake things up.
Maybe you suck.
But you don't even know that there's another way to be because you haven't experienced it before. I love when people it's like why I love Rise Conference, or when people come from another state and they like go to a city and yes, it's scary. And they're sort of like, oh my gosh, I got to get on an airplane. I haven't done that before. Or I've got to get a hotel room, or what's a conference? Like, I don't even know what that is. Like,
what's a car wash? What's a conference? What is this? I don't understand. What's a nail polish? These are the questions that Rachel answers on Rach Talk, in case you never heard of it. These are the deep, deep questions that are answered on her show.
There's all this stuff that happens, but one of the most beautiful things is that it changes your worldview and your perspective. I always think that a better evolution of ourselves is out there, and one of the most amazing ways is to experience a new city. If I was in my 20s, let me say this a different way. This is important. Let me say this differently. If my kids weren't in school, I would do this. In fact, make no mistake, my daughter is 5. I've got 13 years, maybe less if all of a sudden she decides that, when she's older, she wants to go to a private school and they let us travel. I don't know. But
when I heard that last time, I was like, wait, does private school just let you travel? Why don't you just do online school or homeschool? That's an option, but I highly doubt that Rachel wants to be a homeschool teacher to a 5-year-old. Oh, thank you. Okay. Phlogynia. I don't think that was right. But thank you very much. Phonetically spell your name for me so I can pronounce it much better. Fiostina. Thank you for that. Please.
Unfollow me.
I'm just kidding. You're welcome here. I'm like, does anyone go to private school? They just let you travel like unrestricted? That there's just no school anymore? They're just like, yeah, you paid your money, you paid your tuition? Psh, yeah, just go. Leave us in 6 months. And we'll just give you the A's. And was she deciding that? Like little Noah's going to decide like, okay, I'm ready to attend private school. I've done my research and I'm ready to travel in the RV with you, Rachel. Like, it's so weird.
I'm telling you right now, the second that my kids are done with school, I will not live in one place permanently. Cool. I will have a home, but I will live in the world.
Good for
I
you.
will live out in the world. I'll go live in Paris for 6 months and I'll learn French. I'll go live in Spain. I'll go live in, Ohio. I don't know. But I do know for a fact that the most profound life changes I have experienced has been because I've changed location. So if I didn't have to be
once
like nailed down to a certain location because my kids are in school, I wouldn't be. Oh my gosh.
She just lies. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate that. Angel says, how do people literally live in such delusions? That's a great question. I think it's the self-help, magical thinking, mindset, mastery. Now, I guess nowadays, it's the mainstreaming of this stupid-ass information that has become so prevalent in our society that everyone's living like this now. So, Dave says.
Turns out you can have a full life without putting it all on social media.
I think people have just seen how much money you can make, and even if you just make it for like 2 years, that's more than a lot of people make in a whole lifetime. A couple $1 million if you hit it big, and then they can just go away if they want. They never go away, but they could. And they've capitalized on this moment where everyone's, wanting advice. I don't know. It's very delusional. I agree. Okay, let's continue. This is her next thought. Now, I forget which one's coming up, but they get worse, basically, as time goes on.
I would have a job I could do from anywhere. Something you can do on the computer, graphic design, marketing. Like, there's so many, a million.
I always think of that, when she said that, I thought of, like, the Tyra Banks, Eve, the movie with Lindsay Lohan on Disney Channel, where Tyra Banks becomes the doll comes to life, and she goes to the temp agency, and she just sits at the computer and types. Like, that's what Rachel thinks that remote work is. Like, just get a job, remote. It's like graphic design. Yeah, as if that's like, some skill that you could just learn in 5 seconds. Okay. Anyways, moving on.
Jobs you can do from anywhere, especially now post-COVID. Oh my gosh, I would do that in a second. It's also, can I just say, for those of you who are in college and you're debating and you're trying to figure out your major and all of that jazz, it's worth thinking. Do I want to have, am I on a career path that puts me on a job that I have to be in one location? Let's say you're on a career path to be a teacher and the idea of education is really inspiring to you, but maybe you've never considered that by following, becoming an elementary school teacher, you will be in one spot. Unless you set out and you say, I don't even know if this is a thing for teachers, but unless in advance you're I'm going to do a year in this school and then I'm going to go teach English as a second language in Japan, and then I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to go do that. If you don't set the intention for wanting to make change and wanting to have a life that looks differently, you will unknowingly find yourself in a repetitive cycle that just looks like everybody else's life.
Okay, what's wrong with that, number one? Number two, isn't that the exact opposite advice that she gave to her younger staff member when she said, she wants a husband, so she's gonna, hope that the friend that she makes introduces her to her husband? Well, no, you can't do that. You have to just pretend that you want to just be friends and just have good experiences. You shouldn't set out to do that. Okay, so why don't you just become an elementary school teacher and just see what happens? The advice does not translate from one scenario to the next, and that's what gets me so mad, because it's the advice only, it's fluid. The advice is fluid. Whatever Rachel has done or she thinks at the moment, the advice changes based on that. So it's at least if you're going to have bad advice, just stick to it. Don't change the advice and make it both bad. Thank you, Albanese. Thank you very much. Okay. They ask, what kind of parent do you think Rachel really is behind the scenes? I don't know. I tend to believe that, she's probably fine. I think she's wants to have a career, which I think that's totally fine. There's no problem with that. I think now, especially with joint custody, she might even have more of an opportunity to do that type of stuff and go away for weeks at a time and have, Dave take care of the kids without the guilt. So maybe it works out better for her this way, honestly. I think she's an independent person, meaning not relationship-wise, but she doesn't want to just be a mom, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think overall, she's probably a good mom. They've had nannies and stuff to help them, but that's not to say that you can't be a good mom with help. So I don't know. I think behind the scenes, she's probably fine. Her advice about motherhood's weird, but I think she probably is more normal behind the scenes. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. But thank you very much. I appreciate the question.
That wasn't nice.
I'm just kidding. That was nice. Okay, continuing.
So I would definitely do that. The next thing I wrote down that I would do is I would be obsessed from the earliest age possible. This one's for all of you. I don't care how old you are. This is for every single person here.
Okay.
If I could wave a wand and give you anything, or give me at 20 anything, or I am hopefully giving my daughter this, I would be obsessed with learning to love myself and learning to love my body. Don't roll your eyes. Don't, skip past this no. We are not born hating our bodies. We are not born disliking any part of our bodies. I think it's Louise Hay who, in one of her original books, writes this idea that a baby loves every part of itself. It loves its rolls. It loves its chubby thighs. It will literally play with its own poop. That is how much a baby loves itself. We are taught to dislike ourselves. We are taught to hate our bodies. We are taught to think that.
Yeah, by people like you, Rachel. Okay, so I have the book in which she is referencing. I've had this forever. I've been waiting to do the review, but I think I'm just going to do it because I keep referencing it and I haven't done the video, so people don't know how horrible this book is. But she's talking, okay, it's a section here. You see the highlighter. It's called The Perfection of Babies. Now, this is by Louise Hay, who, thinks that children with glasses means that their parents are fighting in the household. And that's why they are blurring their eyes subconsciously so that they don't have to watch their parent. I don't know. There's a lot in this book that's crazy. Okay, but this is the paragraph in which she's referencing in this podcast, just to give you a little bit of like in-depth during this live stream. Okay, it says, how perfect you were when you were a tiny baby. Babies do not have to do anything to become perfect. They already are perfect, and they act as if they know it. They know they are the center of the universe. They are not afraid to ask for what they want. They freely express their emotions. You know, when a baby is angry, in fact, the whole neighborhood knows. You also know when babies are happy, for their smiles light up a room. They are full of love. Tiny babies will die if they do not get love. Once we are older, we learn to live without love, but babies will not stand for it. Babies also love every part of their bodies, even their own feces. They have incredible courage. You were like that. We were all like that. Then we began to listen to adults around us who had learned to be fearful, and we began to deny our own magnificence. I never believe it when clients try to convince me how terrible they are or how unlovable they are. My work is to bring them back to the time when they knew how to really love themselves. AKA when they were smothering their face or lathering their skin with their own feces. That's what we need to return to, is what we say. That was actually one of her very calm paragraphs. I highlighted the feces part because I was like, she talks a lot about feces and butts in her book. Holden Kellerhalls, thank you very much for that super chat. I appreciate that. And for you, I will say this creepy message. Dave will also say this creepy message for me.
I love you.
Thanks, Dave.
It's giving me life.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, let's continue. She's going to talk more about how amazing babies are.
Is wrong with us. We are taught by society. Sometimes, unfortunately, we're taught by our family of origin. We're taught by friends. We're taught by magazines or media. We are taught that.
In your books.
We do not come into this world believing that we are wrong. So I would be obsessed. I am on a journey now at 39 years old, and I have been for years. And I will tell you, in the beginning, it was slow going, and the wheels start turning, and it gets faster and faster, and I'm getting better and better at loving myself. But I would be obsessed. If I was in my 20s, it would be my greatest mission. Everything, screw the relationship, screw what's going on with my career, all of that stuff can go away, because if you don't love, like obsessively love yourself, like think you're beautiful inside and out. And I know that is hard, because you have to erase years of programming that tell you this is wrong and that's wrong, but it is possible. It absolutely is possible. So I would be obsessed with that. I'd read books on it. I'd listen to podcasts. I'd watch YouTube videos. I would make sure that I was hanging out with friends who have really positive self-image, who love their...
You know, it's great that she's come to this conclusion, but it's funny that, you know, her first book, her second book, one of the books, you know, she spends a pretty good chapter talking about, you know, how being overweight really made her unhappy, and that she was so fat, and she was like, I found one of her old podcasts. I had a screenshot of it. I don't know what I did with it, but it was like, I went from a size 10 to a size 2 and kept it off. And that was her podcast title from a few years ago, like 2018. Thank you, Evelina T. Okay. Thank you for your streams, which allow me not to follow any of the Hollises and still get the tea. Yes, that is the service I am providing with my own commentary and, you know, chapter book reading from time to time, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much for saying that. Makes me feel good. But don't make me feel too good, because
I am not emotionally stable.
But it's important to know that.
It's okay to cry.
So, and also, Dave, where are you? Where is Dave? Heidi, where is Dave always?
He's always in the bathroom.
Ah, okay. Well, thank you for that information. And thank you, Evelina. I appreciate that. Excuse me. Okay, let's continue.
Bodies who are celebratory, who have...
Oh, we were talking about Pam. Yeah, she wrote a whole chapter about, you wouldn't trust Pam with your, work project, because she was supposed to go on Whole30, and she's eating a pizza because she had a slice of cake at her son's birthday party. How dare she? How dare she, that horrible slob of a woman. I am never going to trust her at work. She's not going to be taking care of my project. Like, this is the stuff she wrote in her own book. And she also did an interview with Dave where they looked at a picture of themselves from a couple years ago. They're like, can you believe we looked like that? Oh my God, we were so puffy. We were stung by 100 bees. Ugh. And yeah, and it's just... I'm glad that she's moved on, but again, no acknowledgement of like, in the past, I definitely had bad image, self-image, fat phobia, whatever. And I also have struggled with this myself and with others, dealing with it, being very manipulated by, the magazine, the whatever, society, all of that. So it's been a struggle to come out of it. But the fact that she published a book with very opposite beliefs than what she's saying right now, it's like, I think you owe the audience a little bit of like, so if you've read my books, you might be like, what? This is weird. I've changed. That's all she needs to say, but she'll never will, apparently.
Healthy relationships with food. Like, I would try and seek those people out. I know you can't snap your fingers and all of a sudden your life looks like what you want it to look like, but you can be intentional about seeking it out. I would be obsessed with loving myself. Because how girls, boys, people, how many years have you already wasted? If we could total up the amount of time that you have spent disliking yourself, disliking your body, punishing yourself for the food you ate, overthinking it, wishing you had six-pack abs, wishing your butt was flatter, wishing your butt was juicier, wishing you didn't have cellulite or stretch marks. How much effing time have you wasted? It didn't come to anything. It didn't help you, didn't make you better, didn't make you thinner, didn't make you more loved. The answer is actually the opposite of what you think. You cannot shame yourself into a better version of you. You can't.
Okay, Rachel, thank you for that advice. It's very counterintuitive to everything you've possibly taught in the last 5 years. It's all about shame. It's all about, I think about that video where she says, looking at that Pinterest quote that says, just, all I did today was breathe and that's okay. Ugh. That's horrible. I hate when people say stuff like that. You should be doing more. That's her message all the time. It still is in some ways. Like, get your big boy pants on and just do the thing. It's like, ugh. And now all of a sudden she's like, oh yes, like just accept yourself as you are. Since when? Since when is that it's just because it's on brand. That's what she does. She follows the trends and now that's trending. Okay, that's what she believes. And she hopes that, the people who know her from before are gone and just don't care. But unfortunately for her, here we are to set the record straight. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
If you could, it would have already worked.
Oh, sorry. JB, thank you very much. Dave, always in the bathroom reading Reddit. True. And I like your profile photo there, JB, and this is for you.
We have a lot of really great friends from Canada.
We do. They're all named Timmy Horton, Gordon, McGorton. Collectively. Okay.
By now. You can love yourself. You can make choices from a place of love. And it starts, it takes all your effort to go even this much, even the smallest inch. But it grows. It's a practice like anything else. Beauty for 15 clothes or Rakuten.com or get the app and start saving today.
Rakuten. All right, we're back.
The next thing I'd do if I was in my 20s is I would take a deep dive into spirituality. And spirituality and religion are two different things in this instance for me. Many of us.
Okay, here's an alert. Not a cringe alert, but like sort of interesting information alert. That's a good one. She's going to talk about, her time. She basically was, Christian mommy blogger for the longest time and very much I'm a woman of faith. I'm a Christian mom. That's where my viewpoint's coming from. And I'm the Midwest Martha Stewart or whatever she said, Midwest goop, for Christians. And now she's going to basically denounce the whole religion, sort of, but then kind of backtracks a little bit. It gets a little bit all over the place. I'll let it roll for a while so you can hear it, but I'm not sure it came to any sort of conclusion that I was satisfied with. But I'm interested to hear more, I guess, in the future.
Up with some sort of religious background. And I guess how I think of this is religion is something that is created, practiced, carried out by humans.
I'm sorry.
Okay, bear with me for a second. Humans are invariably fallible. We make mistakes. We are imperfect. So oftentimes in religious institutions, we have human beings who are fallible trying to carry out doctrines, dogmas, rules that are kind of idealized perfection. And there's absolutely no way that a fallible human being can carry out a perfect list of rules. And there's incredible power in religion, and religion has helped so many people and gives you guidelines and grounding and all of that. You do you, right? But where I think the difference is for me, spirituality is the relationship that you have with your creator. Spirituality is the relationship you have with the divine. It's the relationship you have with God or the universe or source or whatever you believe in. But it is not something that goes through someone else. So in the Christian faith, how I was raised, you got your wisdom from a pastor who stood on stage and told you what to do and be and think and have and all of it. And
remember, her dad was that said pastor, or one of them at least. I don't know if he was the head pastor or what type of, I'm definitely not Pentecostal, never was raised Pentecostal, so I don't know how their, systems work, their hierarchy, but, I think her dad would be one of these people she's speaking about now. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's interesting that she's kind of taking this stance, and her grandfather was also a Pentecostal preacher. So it's interesting.
Catholic tradition, even to confess a sin, you actually have to go to a priest and say, here's all the ways that I suck. And the priest is like, okay, so say this many Hail Marys and do these 3 things. And then you're accessing your creator through another human. And I don't like that. I think, when you read about Jesus, if that's your thing, or when you read about Muhammad, or when you read about
like how she says, like, if that's your thing, kind of like not condescending totally, but a little bit disconnected from herself. It's like, wasn't that your thing? Isn't that your thing? You haven't made a public announcement like, hey, I've completely changed religions. There has been really no thorough conversation at least about that until now. It's not even thorough. It's kind of like, again, sort of being around the bush. So once again, it's interesting. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't have a huge stake in religion, so I think other people might be they'd have more insight than I do, but something happened at some point that we're missing a piece, I think.
When you learn those stories, there's wisdom and information and lessons in all of it. But spirituality to me is, what is your relationship with your creator? And I really experienced this for the first time. If you guys read Girl Wash Your Face, I talked about this in chapter 19. It's actually why I have a tattoo on my wrist that says chapter 19. In chapter 19 of Girl Wash Your Face, I told the story of my 2 best girlfriends, Sammy and Beans, who were on staff at our church. That's how we met. We all went to the same church. And they were on staff at the church and were best friends and realized they were in love with each other, and kept that very quiet and kept that in the closet and kept that in the dark for a very long time. And when they finally had the courage to admit that truth, I watched this beloved church where I had learned and took my children and worshiped and all of it for years, absolutely be the worst parts of humans, not even the worst parts of Christians, but the worst parts of humans. And I was just astounded. It was like one thing after another. And I wrote about this in chapter 19 of the book. And that experience made me really start to question everything. And it wasn't the first time that I had questioned the church, because I had grown up in the church. If you grow up in the church, you've experienced scandal. You have. Like, if you haven't, then you're not paying attention. It's that same thing. Humans are fallible. And so I had experienced, pastors who had told us to live one way, and it would come out that they had been doing something very different. And in this instance, with my best friends, I was watching them be treated so terribly by people who had for years said that they loved them, and for years say that they were accepting of everybody, and ye who is like, just all of it. It was gross. And I had this like big shakeup in my life where I remember thinking, well, now I know, even though they're not publicly, and this church still hasn't publicly, it's still a very big church in LA, and they still haven't ever publicly, to my knowledge, come out and said basically like, people who are gay are second-class citizens, which is very much how they treated two people I love the most. But behind the scenes, that absolutely was what was going on. And I
hate to draw the comparison to herself, but, it's a list of rules. Wasn't her first book and second book like lies I tell myself or rules to live by, or some sort of, every chapter was like a phrase that, she was giving her own personal anecdote about to help you through your hard time. And a lot of them turned out to be bullshit. So that's sort of the same thing, because you're sort of the preacher in this scenario, Rachel is, and the parishioners are the readers. And people over time found out like, yeah, you're kind of mean, or you're kind of out of touch, and you act like you're this, angel that, oh, I'm an alcoholic and I stopped, and then all of a sudden you're drinking again. There's all these, falsities. Or me and my husband have the best relationship. He's my first number one boo thing. And you come learn how to be like us, and then you do, and then they break up and get divorced immediately, and then all of a sudden there's a secret life. Like, she's got a secret life. She had a secret life because she was protecting Dave's secret life, right? So, thank you, Brie. Let's see. What did you say? I didn't see it. It didn't even pop up. Oh, wait. Now it is. Oh, okay. Sheba laughing slightly with blushing and covering his mouth with one arm. Well, for that, I will say this.
We're best friends.
We are. And Dave says,
I will actually do something obscene for you.
that's what he tells Heidi every night. And she's like, stop. I'm stressed. Everything's so hard. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Brie. But yeah, I think the more I listen to Rachel Hollis content, the more she's almost like the only person she cares to talk about is herself. The only person she should be talking to is herself. Because a lot of the lessons she's trying to externally teach, she has not internally come to grips with, so it seems. Okay, the most egregious one is coming up. It's about the saving the planet by buying designer clothes shtick is coming up soon. So kind of let's wrap this part up, because it kind of, like I said, just kind of flops around.
remembered holding this knowledge and like going back to church on Sunday and seeing the head pastor on stage preaching and knowing what he was doing behind the scenes. And I just couldn't stomach it. I was like, I can't ever come here again, because it was such a disconnect to say God is love and then treat people with such hate. And I remembered thinking at the time, I was like, what if one of my kids is gay? What if someday my kid comes to me and says that they are gay, and I knowingly have brought them to this church for years, knowing that they would also be shunned if they came out. And I was like, this is warped and this is fucked and I can't be here. And the honest truth is,
Now, I don't want to nitpick too hard, but I will nitpick a little bit. She still went to church on Sunday knowing all this had gone on. That's a little bit like you could have made a stand without going the last Sunday. You know, she decided to push, you know, what happened aside for at least a temporary amount of time. And then, but she only really took stock when it could affect her. Like, what if my child was gay? My two best friends, that's their issue. What if my child was gay? Then I'm going to have to face up to this. So I guess I should take action now. I mean, again, it's not like the worst thing in the world. People come to things over time, but just sort of, again, on brand for her to like wait till it may affect her to do something.
For a minute, and this happens sometimes, for a minute, my anger with the church became my anger with God. And it took me, I don't know, a year or more to unravel that and to understand that God, my creator, and in fact, you'll hear me, if you notice, you'll hear me on this show talk about my relationship with God, but I don't really talk about religion for this reason. I think it can be so beautiful. And it is the faith tradition that I was born inside of and that I grew up with, and that has been incredible in my life. But the reason I say to unpack spirituality is because that is a relationship between you and your creator. And that's what I found on the other side of that experience was my relationship with God has never been stronger. My faith has never been stronger. My faith has never been bigger. But it is not dependent on a human to be the in-between. And I had no idea that when I started to learn more about spirituality and I didn't attach a church to it, that my worldview would expand in such a way that I would learn about other religions, that I would learn about other ways of thinking, that I would learn about meditation and all of these things that I've gained in the last couple of years that I never would have experienced because I was told growing up that anything that wasn't inside of our church was wrong. And I'm not saying you might have the most like open-minded, beautiful church family. I'm freaking here for that. Love that for you. This is not talking about not being involved with the church. But if I could go back in time, I wish I would have understood sooner to develop my relationship with the divine on my own, to take that as a course of study and to really want to go deeper and understand what it all means. And to me, it means something so much bigger than I understood when it was inside the parameters of one religion.
I'm all for it. You know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not religious at all. I was born Catholic, sort of. I did communion. I never did confirmation. So I was totally offended by her comment about Catholics. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, her version of spirituality is like doing a meditation. Okay, that's wonderful. That's something, but that's not necessarily all there is. Like, she's talking to mediums. She's talking to holistic practitioners, which is a little, you know, on the woo-woo side of spirituality. It's not like she's, you know, more into the philosophy of like, what is life for and how can we help humanity and all that stuff. Like, that's more, I think, I don't know. We can have a debate about what spirituality actually means, but she seems to be going through the capitalistic spirituality. You know, she has an energy healer that's going to tell her that has worked with Teal Swan. If you know who Teal Swan is, that's the energy healer that Rachel has gone with for some reason. She's talking to a hormonal person that tells you your cycle is also based on your spirit and like all this stuff. And she's like, oh, I have a spirit animal and I have a spirit this. And I looked up the significance spiritually of this bird that, you know, flew into my house. And that's all good, but that's all sort of, to me, like gimmicky spirituality. And I've done it. I'm not saying that it's not, you know, I've gone through it all, like going to, yoga, and that's separate to me now. It's more like exercise and kind of just like relaxing for me. But you know, I experimented with the like those deprivation tanks. I did that and meditations and I never went to a retreat, but I did like workshops and all that stuff. So I'm not against it or above it. I just think that it's not really getting closer to God. It's more paying money to experience something kind of kooky, personally. Okay, see a super chat is coming through. So before I start it again, I will wait because sometimes it pops up early. This one is from Jen D08. There. Oh, Katie Wolf. Uh-oh. Where's Jen D? Okay, well, I'll read it here. It says, if you listen to her long enough, then you start to notice the inconsistency and contradictions. She makes me so angry. Thank you for the hard work. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Jen D. I appreciate that. I can't help myself. I don't know. I hate listening to it, but then it all remains in my brain for the most part. So I think that's worth
$18 stinking dollars
per hour. I have to listen to Rachel Hollis content. And I say like I have to. I could stop at any time. But for some reason, I like pointing out the contradictions. So here's to keeping on doing it. Okay, let's continue. We've got about 12-ish minutes left, I think.
Next thing that I wrote down, if I could go back in my 20s, is okay, now we went very deep and now we're going to go right back up to the top with something frivolous. I would invest in great pieces of clothing and really good tailoring. I would invest in great pieces of clothing and really good tailoring. And I want to say this because I feel like one of the trends of the last 10, 15 years is fast fashion. I'm going to go buy something that is popular for this season or maybe even this month or this date night, and I'm never going to wear it again. It's like a one-time only thing. And what I know is that the stuff that I love the most is the stuff that I've had the longest. And when it's really good quality, which is going to be way more expensive than going to Zara, right? Versus going and like buying some jeans at Zara versus going and buying some jeans from Levi's are two completely different price points. And they're different price points because the Levi's will literally last you forever versus that cheap thing that you bought from a fast fashion empire is not going to last you. And not only that, guys, just to take a quick deep dive on why this matters even more beyond just your wardrobe's going to be better. And if you
Okay, so if that didn't enrage you to no end, please
unfollow me.
Just kidding. Again, it's like, yeah, just my advice is like, just get an amazing job, find amazing love, and like live happy, babes. Like that's my advice. Okay, yeah, I don't think it's because people don't. They don't know how much better quality, higher priced items are. I don't think that's the issue. Like, oh, we need a self-help guru to tell us this. Like, I would love to buy more designer, sustainable brands, but they're expensive as hell. Do you think I can spend $400 on a sweatshirt like you can, Rachel? And she just started this vintage bullshit, whatever, like, oh, I saved the environment by buying $500 jeans that, Madonna wore. Like, oh, great. Okay, meanwhile, this is QVC.com. I don't think QVC is very sustainably sourced. I can't imagine that they're, these are not made in Taiwan or Bangladesh or somewhere where she's about to talk about how, like, if you don't care about the environment, well, do you care about women's rights? Do you care about women, like the economy, about women? So I don't know if I can even buy any of this, or this is just like what, like her like lookbook of shit that she's sold in the past. Like, I don't know what this is, but I guess I can buy this. I can buy this. Oh, it's $15. Oh my gosh. She's about to say on this podcast that, oh my God, if something's $8, you can't possibly like think that, that's sustainably sourced. Okay, bitch. Well, this is $15 because it's heavily discounted, and no offense, but I mean, okay, I was going to say it's ugly, but it's okay. but it's basic. And I don't care about fashion. I really don't care about fashion at all. But it's like, get a clue. You're going to blame, it's all our fault, just regular people in America trying to clothe ourselves that we're causing all these issues. How about you blame the corporations? How about you blame the regulation in the United States? How about you get a petition and get people to sign it? No, just blame, individual choice. Okay. We're still there. This is very 2012 of you, Rachel. God, can I speak? I think I got noodle stuck in my throat. Okay. Moving on. It gets worse.
In tailoring, you're going to look better inside of it. This also matters deeply because, number one, the fashion industry is the biggest employer of women globally. It is. And fast fashion is the worst possible job situation in terms of women being paid a fair living wage throughout the world. Look it up. So anytime that you are buying those pieces, you are investing in companies that are not always going to be the places that take care of their labor force. And yes, as a woman, you should care, but as a human being, you should care that if you are buying a shirt for $8, there is no way that with production, costs of those goods, all of it, there's no way that the person who made that was paid a fair living wage. It's not possible. So when you make that purchase, you are investing in something.
This is coming from the woman who, I don't know for sure. Obviously, her company is private. I can't see the information, but just on observation on LinkedIn, on observation of who seems to be in her life, on her team, she had 60 employees. It looks like she has maybe 2. And I don't even think I think Jack, the video guy, I think he's freelance. I've kind of thought that lately because she had to ask him if he was available to come to Nashville to shoot stuff. So to me, that sounds like, well, yeah, she has to ask if you're available and doesn't pay for his flight and stuff through the company car, that he is not a worker that even works for. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's a little detail. But so you laid off 50 people, if not more, fired/laid off people. How about you work on your sustainability? How about you work on not getting canceled so that other people can feed their family? How about you work on not stealing people's quotes and putting them on your Instagram, Twitter, whatever, acting like they're your own, and then getting canceled and then having to fire someone, allegedly, because of your mistake? The buck stops with you. You're the CEO. You're the boss babe that everyone admires and looks up to, or did at least. How about you take some responsibility? Stop blaming the people listening to the last people that are hanging on to your words, that are still supporting you after all this time. This is the information you're giving them. Stop buying Zara pants because women in India can't feed their families. Okay. She talks on such a pedestal as if she has figured out everything. She's the least judgmental person. She's the most positive person. That's who's giving this information. She's setting herself up as the expert. Whether she likes to admit that or not, she is. And this is the shitty advice she gives. It just drives me nuts. People should, I don't know. I'm not against slow fashion. I think slow fashion's wonderful, but it's just not realistic. I cannot afford it. I would love to. I have all the desire in the world to go buy stuff that's made sustainably, that I can look at their worker force and be like, okay, they all make a fair wage. But I can't. So what do you want me to do? Be ashamed my whole life? Jump off a bridge and just be like, well, couldn't do it. What's the solution here? There is none, except for feel bad about yourself and buy more of my shit and listen to more of my books to get more information. That's dumb.
Thing that is hurtful to other human beings. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, beyond fast fashion being this thing that is not great for its workers, it's also, fashion is hugely impactful on the environment. The water that it takes, the resources that it would shock you to look up the numbers. So you've heard me talk about the fact that I don't buy new clothing. So this started last summer, I think last August, my boyfriend and I decided that
My boyfriend and I. My boyfriend and I. My boyfriend and I.
My boyfriend, boo thing.
It has nothing to do with my boyfriend, even though he's super eco-friendly. He definitely didn't make me do this. She just bought a shirt in Nashville because she was going to return it because she thinks it's like when you're eating kosher and you're like, well, I'm just going to have a hamburger with cheese on it at the restaurant. I'll still be kosher if I don't bring it in the house. It's like, well, I guess you play with the rules so much, you can, whatever. I don't know. It's like she was going to buy a shirt, or she did buy a shirt, and then she sweat in it. Then she's like, I guess I have to keep it. I feel so bad. I feel so bad about this. I have to keep the shirt because she bought it new at the hotel. So she's full of shit. And she laughs about it like, oh, haha, like I had good intentions, but because I had good intentions and I didn't follow through, it's still good and virtuous. It's like, no, it's not. Well, I thought about donating money to the orphanage. That's worth something, right? No, it's actually worth $0.
we would no longer buy new clothes. So we had read all of these studies about the labor force, and we'd read all these studies about the impact of fashion on the environment, and we both kept talking about it. We're just like grossed out, but we kept, doing it. Not buying fast fashion, but we're still buying new clothes. And just one day I was like, okay, well, we have to sort of put our actions where our heart is. If our heart feels like this is wrong, but our actions don't match it, there's, cognitive dissonance between what we're saying is like terrible and what we're actually doing. So we made the decision we don't buy new clothes. So we only buy things that are vintage or previously owned if we buy new clothes at all. And I'm not going to lie, I miss shopping.
She shops constantly. Every time she does a Rach talk, she's like, I just bought this. I got it at the vintage store in Austin. It's called this, and this is what it looks like. And oh my, she has a whole fashion show. Literally, if you guys have never, I don't know how many of these you watch, or if you're just joining for the first time, but if you've ever watched before, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, she does like a fashion show before the content of Rach Talk, which is her YouTube show that she talks about herself for 25 minutes. Worse than this, less structure than this. She's like, oh, this jacket, this, and this. She used to have a stylist who's also her friend, her third best friend who's, employed by her as well. Or I don't know if the other two are employed. They worked for the company with her at some point, I think. But anyways, she talks about fashion constantly. And this is a new, like she said, since August, I started doing this. Like, wonderful, great, glad. But don't act like, oh, this is something I've dedicated my life to. You just started and you shop constantly still, and buying, I don't think buying vintage is necessarily solving the world's crisis. I don't think.
I was just in Nashville, and it was a really cute store. I just was walking by. I didn't even go inside. But I was like, oh, that sweater is so cute. Oh, and it's hard. It's way harder because it's hard if you're buying vintage. Like, it's hard to find your size, and it's hard. But honestly, I feel really good about the choices that I'm making. And I hope, you guys have heard me talk about it ad nauseum, but I'm really hoping that maybe by me making this choice, I've influenced you a little bit. And you've just started to think about the impact of your clothing on the world. So I would invest in great clothing pieces.
I hate her. I'm sorry. That's mean. That's mean. Dave says that's mean, right, Dave?
That wasn't nice.
I know. It just bothers me because it's like, okay, now if I was to be a real follower and take this advice, I'd be like, okay, now I gotta buy $500 pants and up so that I don't hurt women across the world. That's my biggest fear. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to cause any harm to anybody. Okay, now I'm in debt. Okay, now I need to move every 6 months. Like, what am I? Okay, this isn't. What am I missing? I just must be a bad person. The universe must not be blessing me like they bless Rachel. I guess I should hate myself more than I already do. That's the message I'm getting here.
That would last me for a really long time. And I would invest in tailoring. I grew up sort of going like, okay, I'm a size 8 or I'm a size 10, and trying to find clothes that fit my size. And then if I had if I was bigger than the size I thought I would feel depressed, and I would either buy clothes in a size that didn't fit me, or I would not buy clothes at all because I would be depressed about not being the right size. It was all so stupid. But size of your clothes does not matter. Fit matters. And in fact, most of the time, if you want something to fit beautifully with tailoring, you actually buy a bigger size and have it tailored to fit your body, which is like when you see celebrities and you're like, good God, they look amazing in that outfit. It's because it's been tailored to their body. So rather than buying 10 shirts that are $10, I would buy one great piece that I'm going to have for a very long time and have it tailored to fit.
Cool. Great story, Rachel. How will you call QVC? I'll bring that up again. Can I? Did I already bring that up? Yeah, why don't you call QVC immediately and tell them to take this velvet dress that's 4.5 stars. Okay, let's read the 1-star review. Can I? Okay. Someone says, this dress is horrible. It looks like someone took 2 squares of fabric and sewed the sides up like a big box. The armholes come down below my bra by 3 to 4 inches, and the dress just hangs shapelessly. I can't imagine who might look good in this. Also, the fabric isn't at all soft as one expects velvet to feel. This is just a big miss, so back it goes. Oh, man. That's funny. That's Rachel's $15 dress that she's, definitely would never buy again, even though she made it and her name's on it. Oh, of course. Oh my God, that color. I'm sorry. I'm no fashion expert. I'm no fashionista. But I agree with that 1-star review. That pocket looks poorly designed. That one's okay because you don't see the pocket. But what do you put in there? Cigarettes? What do you put there in that velvet dress? Seems silly. And what does this have to do with Rachel Hollis? Anyways, like what was this time period of Rachel Hollis's career? People just gave her money for being her? Like, what is going on? This has nothing to do with, I'm a woman empowering women. Like, this is a dress from QV. I don't get it. I wasn't not a fan. I just wasn't involved at that point, so I don't know what was going on at that moment. Anyways, we're almost done.
The next thing I would say, 100%, that I would have learned so much earlier, y'all, girls, menstruators, listen to me. I would have learned about my cycle. I have done so many episodes on this now. You can start with episode.
Okay. I don't know if I want to listen to this about her hormones again. Like, oh, thank you, Jen D. Let's see. Did that come through? Okay, yes, it did. No good intention. She bought it to return it. Yeah. That seems like a cop-out. Like, well, I can do it. I can buy new as long as I buy it and return it. Like, so what? The next person has to buy new and feel bad about themselves? Yes. But I bet she paid more than...
It is 18 American dollars.
Because she got that money, apparently. Hopefully it runs out. Well, I shouldn't say that because she's got kids. But hopefully the money runs out as soon as Noah turns 18 and has her college paid for. Right? That's what we're hoping for, right?
That wasn't nice.
All right. Sorry, Dave. Thank you, Jen D. Okay, but I went finally on my own time. I went and listened to her one about periods. Well, she's got multiple, like she said. And I was like, okay, well, maybe there's some, information here that is relevant or interesting. Rachel didn't know that people get their periods like monthly. Like, that was the level that she didn't know. It's like, how did you not know that? I thought she was talking about it's kind of woo-woo too, but like this week is good for planning. This week is good for resting. This week is good for like hard cardio workouts. I've heard those types of coaches, menstruating coaches before. I don't really think it's necessary, but whatever. It's that type of thing. It's not like, how to cure your pain. It's like how to take this and capitalize it immediately. But she was like, Rachel's like, I didn't know that, like, you had to track your cycle. And like, I didn't know that it came like every 30 days. I thought like it came like once or twice a year. I'm like, what? That is like, you need to go to health class, not learn about this seems like the level of learning on your end needs to be much higher. I don't know. It was very odd. So it's like, okay, so the lesson I'm supposed to learn is that my period comes every 30 days. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty aware of that since I was 14 years old. It's been the norm. Not everyone has a normal cycle, but that's not what she was saying, that, oh, cycles are different. It was like, she didn't know that she should track it to see like that. She's like, oh, I don't know when I get it. That's like, well, do you track it? No, I didn't know you're supposed to do that. I don't know. Weird. Okay, we can let it roll.
With Kristen Ciccolini. I just did another episode with her really recently about cycles, hormones, intuitive eating for your cycle, learning which supplements can help you, what different stressors affect your period. Like if you're having cramps, if you're having heavy flow, like for women, they call the period the 5th vital sign. What is happening with your cycle is symptomatic of what is happening with your overall health. I never knew that. I never knew that if I experienced a month where I was having horrible cramps, it was likely because my stress was way out of whack. I thought, oh, well, curse of Eve or whatever. And like, we're just supposed to have really bad periods and no, you're not supposed to.
Maybe it was a religious thing. I saw someone say, and she just said like the curse of Eve or whatever, like, that maybe it was religious trauma that caused her not to have this information. I don't know if she went to public school or what, but that would make sense. But yeah, this is coming from a woman who had allegedly, I don't even believe it, but she said a tampon, lodged within herself for 3 weeks plus. Even though she's gotten training since, I ain't taking advice from her about anything period related from that point forward. Sorry.
Things are going wonky with your cycle. It is a sign that something's off. And if you know that, you can make change. You can do things to make yourself feel better. I will teach my daughter. I'm already talking to her about this is what's happening. I'm bleeding. I'm normalizing it. I'm making it so okay. You need that too. Even if you're listening to this, you're 60 years old. If you don't understand what's going on with your hormones, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. It matters. If you are a menstruator, because not all bleeders are women, right? And not all women bleed.
So I'm glad, that she's clarifying that. But, in the video that she did, or the podcast that she just posted a week ago maybe, when she's talking at the ClickFunnels event, she's calling people out in the audience and saying, someone without a penis, I have a uterus, someone without a uterus needs to raise their hand. So she's acting like, oh, I'm very woke, I understand this gender non-binary things, I'm like very understand, but yet change of scenery, change of audience, guy with the penis, come here, come talk to me. Very brash, very, talking about genitalia in a group setting. Just seems, again, she grifts, she just changes. She's a chameleon. She changes her tone, her whole personality for whatever audience is going to be adoring the most.
But if you are, it is vitally important that you understand how to work with your cycle. There are certain times of the month that you are going to be more creative. There's certain times of the month you're going to have more energy. There's certain times of the month that you need to be more introspective. Your body is actually signaling to you the energy level for all of the things that you want to do. And if you understand your cycle, you can plan out your life according to those ebbs and flows. But if you don't understand your cycle, you have no idea what kind of emotion's about to show up today. And then when it shows up incorrectly, you freak out, you're mad at yourself, you're like, you blame your cycle when really your body is doing exactly what it's meant to do. So if I could go back in time in my 20s when I was learning to love my body, one of the things I would learn to love is my period, is my hormones, because that is your body doing what it's supposed to do. If it feels painful, something's wrong. And if you understand that, you can make change. The last thing that I would say, if I could go back in my 20s, if I could do this in my 20s, I'm pretty sure I would be like Elon Musk by now. I don't want
Oh yeah. Okay. Wait. I'm gonna go back just to like savor this line, because if you weren't already like rolling your eyes in the back of your head, like, oh my God, this woman, she identifies as a woman. This human, as Dave would say, is so out of touch, delusional, ridiculous, full of hot air about herself, then this line will move you up to that point. Okay.
Things wrong. And if you understand that, you can make change. The last thing that I would say, if I could go back in my 20s, if I could do this in my 20s, I'm pretty sure I would be like Elon Musk by now. I don't want to be Elon Musk, but I just mean like I would have invented a rocket ship or something. I didn't understand manifesting. I didn't understand the law of attraction. I didn't understand vibrations. I didn't understand any of that when I was younger. I was doing it, but I didn't know what I was doing. And because I didn't know what I was doing, I couldn't.
If she only knew about manifestation earlier, she could be Elon Musk by now. Well, if you understand it now, couldn't you just... I don't think Elon Musk is manifesting on a daily... I don't think he's meditating and manifesting Tesla stock. I think he's manipulating it via Twitter. But isn't that ridiculous? Oh, that was the thing. Like, she could be Jeff Bezos, but she didn't know about manifesting yet, so that's her bad. And the whole principle of manifesting is like, there's no limits. There's no time. Everything is available. Quantum physics, right? Like, everything that's happened has already happened. It's going to happen. So ask for the universe. Like, you could ask to be more rich than Elon Musk. Why aren't you doing that? Because it's bullshit. That's why. Okay.
Back in. So for me, I feel like if you could learn that now, and if you want to learn more, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably scroll and find it. But on podcast, episode 222 is Manifesting for Beginners, or I just did an episode about how to grow your intuition. Either one of those are really great places to start if you're like, how do you do that? What's everyone talking about on TikTok? Like, what is this thing about law
what
of
happened to
attraction,
dinosaurs?
whatever. You're doing it for good and for bad. And the thing is, most humans are doing it negatively and they don't realize it. So I wish I had to understand that sooner. That's
most humans.
A part of the spiritual journey and understanding sort of what you're putting out in the world. But I also think it's the power of, if you know our Start Today community here, Start Today community are mostly women, but people all over the world who use their Start Today journal every single day.
Okay, so she basically is now doing an ad to get people to become dream catchers, whatever. So I think we could wrap there. That was about it. There's nothing too exciting, I don't believe, after that point. If there is, I will make a formal new video about it. But that's enough Rachel for now. Sick of Rachel. I'm never sick of Rachel. I love Rachel. She's the best advice ever. It's not going to pop up. Carmen, thank you so much. Can we manifest Rach a community editor? No, she can't afford it. She's manifested. Oh, there it goes. Oh, I should have trusted the universe. It was going to pop up. Thank you, Carmen. No, we can't, because I think her collective powers of manifestation are much more powerful than ours. Her one brain of manifestation is more powerful than 1 million other women. Don't ask me why, but that's the truth. She's basically saying it because that's who she is. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. All right, here's a question for you, Carmen. Please answer accordingly.
What happened to dinosaurs?
I need to know. All right, so it's time now. This is a good screenshot. Looks like Dave's talking. Hey, Dave. Let me reason with you for a second. Please stop what you're doing. I mean, you've already stopped, but stop doing more. Stop with the join my safe community booty workout group. I'm sick of hearing about it. All right, so now we're going to listen to Dave and Heidi sharing their intimate messages with each other but more importantly, with us. And they're going to be explaining why they don't care about haters, yet are bringing them up for the millionth time because they don't care so much. And Dave now is so this is Dave's new POV, in my opinion. Thanks, Tracy. His new point of view is that he messed up big time during Pancake Gate, where he, screamed at his audience because he was so passionate, hashtag so passionate can't stop, that now he's going to teach others how to recognize when they're too passionate that they need to take a step back and do self-care. That's my thought because of listening to half of this podcast. Like I said in the beginning of this, I haven't listened to the whole thing, so maybe he goes off course, but of course. But that's what I'm thinking. That's going to be his new grift. Nail thoughts. My nails have thoughts. Help me. I need color. You've picked at me too long. So many days spent picking at my cuticles while I sit at my computer. Help us. Those are my nail thoughts. Chapter 19, if that's your thing. Oh, no. Oh, we got the Tinder. I'm banning them. Okay. See, it's Dave. When Dave gets mentioned, all of a sudden the Tinder XXX sites start popping up. I don't know. We manifested it, I guess. Okay, I banned them. So, yeah. All right. Let's get to that. Oh, JB. Let's see. I am here for this shit show. H&D podcast. Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. That's what we need. DJ Airhorn. Ready? Haters are gonna pay. Right, Heidi?
We're best friends.
Once again, since you are Canadian, JB.
We have a lot of really great friends from Canada.
So you're always welcome here. Okay. Let me pull it up. Also, just to fill in the time here, Dave went home, I guess, to Austin. And, because he has children. Unclassically Ashley. I love that. I love your name. When are you offering to sell your American flag socks? You're too passionate. That's the bar. Right now I have the most dirty socks possible on. Here, I'll show you. The price of them will be...
It is 18 American dollars.
Okay. It says, if you can read this, my other sock says, send chocolate. So I'll sign them in an autograph fashion and send them to Topeka, Kansas, because that's what the place I mentioned earlier. And whoever gets there first can claim them. Thank you. Unclassically Ashley. Do you have a page? Because I'm going to go follow you and subscribe just for that name. I love it. All right. Oh, I was going to say, Heidi. Hold on one second.
System inside of which I was creating from.
Oh, God. He's already started without us. Okay, so Heidi's first husband now is back in the picture. Dave went home to Austin for like a day, and then all of a sudden now Derek, who's Heidi's first husband before Chris, Powell, is now not back in the picture like romantically, but has been over at the house. I haven't seen him in forever. Just so happens second Dave, whoops, Freudian slip. The second Dave leaves, the first guy's back. So, Heidi's doing very well with the independence that she talked about in the part 1 of this podcast. So it's really going well for her. Okay, let's do it. Did I miss anybody? Oh, nope. Okay. Let's do it. And like I said, this is NPR style content. They're using their voice memos to, he'll explain it. I'll just be quiet. Okay.
Hello, Rise Together fam. Dave here. I hope y'all had a nice weekend. We are on a Monday with a bonus episode coming off of Mother's Day. Hope all the moms out there had themselves a fantastic day yesterday. This is a pickup, a continuation of last week's conversation between myself and Heidi Powell, where the end of our conversation was interrupted by the urgency to get to an airport. And this little last piece felt important enough for us to drop it into the feed this week to finish the thought. There's something as humans that ends up happening, I know this firsthand, when we venture into a new space where something in the environment is different than it was before. It's at a new level. It's a more audacious, big goal that we have set. And now as we are approaching it, but don't necessarily have the footing for never having walked the terrain, that self-doubt.
Luis V, oh, thank you very much. Apparently with today's conversion rate, this is the same as 18 American dollars. Well, for that, you get the very specialized soundbite.
It is 18 American dollars.
But make sure, don't forget.
I am all about getting a free ride.
So, never.
Unfollow me.
And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that you don't have a job.
Thank you very much, Luis V. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I'm going to convert it and then put that into cash, and then I'm going to burn it before I buy another Dave Hollis book. I say that, and then I'll buy one just to review it. Okay. We're back to Dave. This is Dave. Okay.
The negative voices that live inside of us, they start chirping as we get closer.
Okay, I will promise you by the next, I'm going to write down on my to-do list. I have a whole to-do list. I'm going to add it inside of soundbite and or text pop-up screen so we can track it, because it's been ridiculous. I've heard it 25,000 times in this one stream. I can't take it anymore. We need to monitor it.
The event, and sometimes outside voices join that chorus and have us start operating in ways that are totally disconnected from how we'd normally hope to approach that new level.
Thank you, official Stace, for Kia being inside the channel. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's do just this simple message from me to you, from Dave to you.
I love you.
Thank you.
The upcoming challenge, this one that starts today actually, was a thing a week and a half ago that Heidi was having some of these feelings around, in that the last couple of challenges were something that we did jointly and in an environment where some of the circumstances have changed. She's leading out on this more than we are doing it together. She doesn't have me as support in social media the way that I might have been before. Some of the voices, the insecurities that come in doing things on your own or stepping into new spaces, we're starting to create something of anxiety, of panic, of trying to force rather than flow. And so we had a really interesting back and forth a week and a half ago, some of which is captured in the voice memos that we were actually sending then in today's episode, to just give you a sense of how my observations of my own reaction to stepping into something that was different in the release of my last book resulted in less than ideal behavior from me, and how maybe some of those observations could keep her.
Yeah, he's still talking. Thank you, Kathleen Lamb. I appreciate that. And Dave has this to say about it.
It's giving me life.
Thank you. He's almost wrapping, but that doesn't really mean much because he's still on sentence 1 basically right now. So but this is what I was saying. He's setting up that like, oh, I took a tumble, I took a stumble. Or I said, Timmy takes a tumble. Dave suffered a stumble. And he's explaining that, but also with the, I'm now going to teach Heidi not to make the mistake I did. And therefore now he's an expert on recovering after internet flub, which was more than a flub. To me, it was like revealing of his true personality, in my opinion, similar to Toilet Gate for Rachel. Like, it's not like, oh, one-time mess up. It seemed like that's what everyone suspected you were already like, and then you let the mask slip a little, and then everyone's like, see? I knew it. Something was off with him. Something was off with her. And then it's confirming our kind of like suspicions. So, anyways.
From falling into that same trap. So I hope that you enjoy It's going to be a good Monday. Let's get to the episode.
Skipping this.
Of the next challenge. We ran out of time.
Sorry.
Last episode in the feed of this, the Rise Together podcast, we were about to jump into a thought that felt unfinished, but also we ran out of time. I had to run to the airport, had some meetings in LA this week, and then made my way over.
I made a joke, which is not really funny, but whatever. He's like, very casually, I had some meetings in LA this week. I'm like, oh, what could that possibly mean? Like, is he getting a job? Is he going to be doing some sort of, like, pitching something? And I was like, oh, maybe, this is not really a joke anymore, but I was jokingly saying, like, oh, well, he shouldn't be going to any meetings except for AA meetings. Wait, hold on. I have that one now. Dave shouldn't be going to any meetings except for AA meetings. But seriously, he's talking about going to, LA for meetings and all this stuff. Like, he just got out of rehab. He should probably just, take it easy. Ease back into it. But, the Hollises don't move slow. They move ho-co.
To Arizona, where we were finishing up some of the fun for this, the launch of the next challenge. But it was, in fact, a conversation about the challenge and the way that you were having a response to some of the pressure of doing something again and the expectation that had been placed on this thing that you care so passionately about that had you having something of an interesting reaction that brought me back to the crazy reaction that I had during the launch of my book. And it provoked what I thought was a really great in real time conversation that, because we thought it might actually make a good conversation on the show, we said, hold on, let's not dive too deeply into this. Let's actually save a little bit of it.
Let's not have a conversation ourselves privately. Let's shut up for now and save it for the people who matter. Our audience, which I'm assuming is dwindling to nothing at this point, at least the paying audience. No one's paying, no one bought his book. That kind of means that people who are watching are either watching like us for snark purposes or listening, I guess, or are listening for free but have no interest in actually upselling to their shit. I don't know.
So that we can, in real time, unpack. Are you doing okay?
Okay. So in real time, they're going to unpack. They're going to buzzword. They're going to buzzword and buzzword. And then this is the first voice memo that he's about to play. In case they don't really tell you like when it's about to hit, but there's a slight change in audio. So this is the voice memo that Dave sent to Heidi.
I think you're crushing it, but I'm also sure that at a certain point it feels a little exhausting. Just checking on you. Keep telling me if there's anything I can do to make it easier or if you need anything, okay? I love you. You're doing great.
You guys, before I go on to this next thing, can we just acknowledge this is how he...
And she didn't get introduced at all. Like, hi, Heidi. How are you? This is Heidi. She's going to be talking. No, she just pops up 4.5 minutes in after listening to Dave's waterfall voice memo. Thank you, Courtney C. I appreciate that.
I will actually do something obscene for you.
So, get ready for that. Thank you. Okay, now Heidi is talking.
I didn't even know I was... And to that, I replied, I said, it is exhausting. I said, I feel like I'm working really hard to get every single person into this community to see how amazing it is.
Yeah.
And then you said...
And the thing is, I think I felt a little bit of this craziness in the launch of that last book where me, ultimately resorting to pleading.
Yeah, this is such stage shit. Oh, thank you, Albanese. Coins for guiding us through Dave's word swamp. Now, that's my interpretation of what the hell he's saying, so don't take my word for it. But I try to see, follow the money, and that seems to track, so that was my 2 cents. And thank you, Rach, but not Rach. I love using this soundbite. Rach,
Rach.
but not.
Rach.
Enjoying the stream. Keep it up. Thank you. I will. But remember,
I want to be relatable.
so I'm just like you. I'm relatable. Just like,
Rach.
okay. Yeah, he's like, oh, that last book, like, that's how you talk to Heidi in this very explanatory way. Yeah, okay, Dave, sure, whatever.
With people to buy the book was because of how much it felt like I was working for every single book, but had to get 1,000, 10,000 no's for every single sale. And it was just like, oh, God, that's exhausting. I'm sorry, babe. Hang in there. Hang in there. There is so much to be proud of in this.
That's called working, Dave. When you don't work for Disney, which is everything is already set up for you because it's such a successful company with trillions and gazillions of dollars at their disposal to just pay for success, which they are very good, but you're an author who just got divorced giving advice. You should have known that you were up against a lot of, Who? The title? What? Who's Dave? Yeah, these are so cringe.
It's doing such a great job. The team is doing such a great job.
You know what's crazy is, it actually does remind me, like now that I go back and track through, and I know you said it the other day, but it didn't really stop to think about it. But yeah, from you like, okay, wait, what? This book tour is not the same? Let me go create my own. Let me go this. Let me go, and it's like yeah. And I can actually feel it on social, right? Like my pleading, forcing, shoving down people's throats, for something that I know is so great. And I think you probably felt the same way. It's so great.
Yeah, she definitely does shove it down people's throats, but that's sales, baby. Make a better product. Maybe people will be flocking to use it, but until then, that's the game. If you want to, they have people who, like Dave had people at his book signings. He did have several thousand, so it seems people buy the book overall. That's not good enough for him. Failure. Heidi has people who are worshiping at her feet, want to be in her group, are basically joining a cult and going out to Arizona to release butterflies for $4,000, and that's not enough. Oh no, I'm so upset that more people aren't giving me money. It's never enough. It'll never be enough. And the people that are giving them money and giving them attention, they'll also probably always feel like they're not enough, which is the total opposite effect of what they're supposed to be feeling by interacting with these fooligans. And it's like, okay, here's my synopsis of this whole thing, thus far and probably moving forward. It's two people complaining about their job while doing the job by posting this podcast is the job in which they are complaining about. It is quite the self-serving circle. It's so hard to do this job. Meanwhile, what they're talking about is the job that they're doing. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll shut up now.
Honest to goodness, no, it's because I just said in that thing, I know how great what we've built is. I know we took something that was great and we made it even better. And I know that the results were better and people were happier. And I know this third round, people it's even greater. And, probably unfair to compare. I was feeling really, there was hardship in knowing that I am pushing this alone, right? So the last two times, Dave, you and I both were promoting and we were talking about it. And so people came in easier. And we have such a wonderful group. The thing is, the group is what it's supposed to be. But I remember that day, this was, the Saturday before pre-launch week. So a week and a half ago today. And it just felt like nobody...
People probably came in easier. First of all, she's upped the price quite a bit. The cheapest is $200 or $250. I'll have to check. And the most expensive is $4,000. And of course, she's going to push the $4,000 option. So a lot less people can afford $4,000 than $200. And even $200 is a little bit low. And then on a different interview, she said a lot, most of the people, I don't know about most, but a lot of the people that did session 1 and 2 or round 1 and 2 are doing round 3. So they're getting a lot of repeat people, but they're not getting enough new people. probably because they saw the before and after photos, and people who are wanting to lose like a ton of weight are not seeing the results that they want to see, and maybe it's not realistic or whatever, but that's just how people buy. And so they're like, this seems like a lot of work and effort, and I don't really want to like be indoctrinated into this cult, so I'm just going to go work out on YouTube because this person lost 5 pounds. It doesn't make that big of a difference, really. I can't tell. Then they're not buying. That'd be my guess. Not that we're all just blinded to how amazing her booty class is, and we're all just, you know, too deep in our depression that we can't see what she's offering for us.
Wanted to hear, and the reality is that's not the truth, right? But because I love what I'm doing so much, and I love that everybody loves it inside of the community, I couldn't wrap my head around why is not everyone doing this, you know? And is something wrong with me? Because when I had you there, people came in easier. And here's the thing, we have a great crowd. And also the last round, it was January 1st. And also we were actually on track that day to match the same numbers, but there was something in my head still telling me that nothing was, I don't know that there would have been a number that would have been enough, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was almost like I had already.
It's almost as if she only wants Dave to come over to her house so that she doesn't have to be alone and that she can be codependent with him. Maybe it's not about the challenge. Maybe it's about getting under Dave's skin and getting him under control. And it looks like he is.
Decided that I am not enough, and the number of people we have is not enough, and not enough people are seeing this good, and I'm not going to do enough good for the world. Like, it was just so much self-doubt.
Sorry, geez. Good for the world. This is the type of talk that's like delusion. Delusion. You're making a booty workout class that already exists 1,000,000 times over. That's not doing anything for the world. You're putting people in a Facebook group. Get a reality pill.
Around what I'm capable of doing alone.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I mean, because this was the essence of my insecurity, because, and I didn't see it at the time, I completely see it now. My breakdown, my like love for this book was completely demolished because I lost myself in the worry that now that I was releasing something outside of a marriage with someone who also was successful as a writer, outside of the Hollis company that had a bunch of marketing and whatever else, outside of, you know, what previously was a thing, and then in the aftermath was something completely different, that I'd be revealed as not being qualified or not being good or not being whatever. And it was the only voice I could hear. And in that fear, in that insecurity, I operated as a crazy person.
Now that we know this, and now that you've been through it, and I don't want to make the same mistake you did, right? As an outsider, what advice?
Set up that sales pitch, Heidi. Set up that like lead sentence that you're going to pitch this as your new speaking, you know, oh, I can talk on the topic of this. So set that up just so sweetly, Heidi. Oh, please. Please, girl, do your thing. Read that sales script.
Do you have for me? What would you do now that you've been through what you have been, and where should I let go?
More than anything, I wish I would have just stopped to appreciate all the good that already existed. The thing that I had said in the freaking book was, if you just change one life, you've changed the world. And I kept losing track of how important it was that I was actually selling a book at all, or that I was actually meeting a person at all. And so, I mean, like, there's so much good in the community right now, so much, that one of the things I think I would do is just force yourself to be in there for 30 minutes, or even when you start to feel overwhelmed, the immediate thing that you go to is the page, just to see all the good that already exists, because it's just like, there is so much good. Every single part of my darkness around the book was connected to comparison. Either this inflated expectation that I'd set for myself, this ambitious, we're going to do more than that last book kind of thing I was reaching for, that was not connected to literally anything other than ego and blind optimism. You know, like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I'd set this goal. Or in like the worst case of it all, I was comparing myself to a writer that was married at the time to a big writer and the benefit that came from her platform and me now, right? Like if I just stayed connected to, I'm me and my world is different and life is different. And so this will likely be a different release, but did I put everything into it? Of course. Am I proud of it? Oh, I'm so proud of it. Well, then I have to release this thing that I've created as creator into the world and just be at peace with it finding whatever the audience that was meant to have it, have it. And it's
Yeah, I'm glad this is all in retrospect, but very similar to Rachel Hollis's new, like, you know, epiphany she's had lately about, you know, hustle culture is not really for me. And I'm all about kumbaya and being a hippie and spending time with my family. All of a sudden, after their cancellation, they had these big revelations. It's like, it's not, I'm glad that they've reached them, but it's not as impressive because they're being forced. Dave, if he would have succeeded with the book, he wouldn't have had this, you know, revelation. So isn't it better that the book failed almost? So like future success is probably going to be worse for him because look what happened. Like he learned this big life lesson from failure. So he should continue to fail because when he was succeeding, his world crumbled before him. But yet he's going to still strive and push to be successful. For what? Look what it got you before. A divorce? Like a whole sham of a relationship. She's saying that you had a double life, an alcohol problem, you know, like, is that all worth it? For what? Some money and to date Heidi? Come on.
Easier said than done because I did the exact opposite. I was only comparing myself to being on a list versus not, to a certain number of pre-orders to less. And it ruined the entire thing.
There's something weird in human nature that has this impulse to compare.
Okay, that I guess was the alleged voice memo he sent Heidi. So this is back to him like talking on the podcast, I guess.
Or this impulse to set higher than our reasonable expectations that completely rob something that is otherwise fantastic from being a thing that we can totally appreciate. And you know, there are so many things that I wrote in the book that I was so freaking proud of that were all about not falling into this very trap. I fell into it anyway. Because I'm human. And the whole point of like wanting to...
No, Dave, you can't write a book that you say you're above humanity, basically, by saying, look, I've overcome this, I've done this, I did this, I can teach you, I can help you, I'm going to help you get a job, I'm going to help you through this book, learn life lessons, it's going to change your life. That was the promise you gave people to buy this book. And the people who bought it, like me, stupid, I mean, I didn't buy it to like enjoy it, but you know, I paid for it. I gave him the 18 stinking dollars for it. Or more, because I bought it on Amazon. I was like 24. God. Anyways, I don't know what I was saying. I got off on the tangent of how much money it was. I don't know. Hold that thought. I'll have it again in a second.
Bring this into a conversation today is that like someone somewhere is going to set for themselves a big goal and they get close to that big goal. And because as they approach it and it being a space that they maybe haven't created in before or a threshold that they haven't set as a bar to try and achieve against before, that insecure voice will start to whisper and it becomes louder and louder and it has the risk of snatching every single bit of good from the thing that you've created if you allow that.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say. It's one thing if you wrote a book that's like Harry Potter, you know, or like my life story. That's one thing. Or a fictional book. That's another thing. But you wrote a book to help people, and now you're saying like, oh, people didn't like it, but the whole book is about understanding people aren't going to like you. That's the irony that they don't understand. That's the biggest irony. If you put yourself out there, if I wrote a book called I Will Always Weigh 110 Pounds, and I publish that book and I send it out there. If I go 150 pounds, people have a right to go, oh, that's ironic and funny that your diet or whatever didn't work. That's weird. You know, that's the type of mentality. It's like you wrote a book called Built Through Courage, and then you had a literal meltdown when people didn't buy your book. Okay, you know, that's why I think it's so funny or interesting or consumable as a snarky person, because it's like the irony is so clear, so clean cut, so in your face. It writes itself. The content that they come out with to justify their behavior also goes into the same, like they're just so unaware, but yet the book that they write is supposed to change my pathetic life. No thanks.
To live. And that lie for me was that I was only good then because of my proximity to Rachel, or because of the ecosystem inside of which I was creating from. And that's ridiculous. Like, of course things are different, and of course it was going to be different, but I just couldn't see it. All I could hear was the voice of my critic that made me doubt that I was good on my own. And in that scared little boy state, I acted crazy to try and convince people to buy a thing that I was proud of.
The fastest way to kill something special is to compare it to something else.
Yeah.
I know you're right. And I hear you. And I know yours was mostly about comparison to try to prove that you were still enough even without what was taken from you, right? Like you had a marriage and you were on a quest to prove that, okay, even without, because it wasn't your choice, right? Inside of this life now, I'm still enough. And so you wanted to sell to get there. For me, I don't know if it was as much about proving as it was, I think mine was comparing myself with what I expect of me. So it's a little bit different in that, and I am so hard on myself. Like, and even saying that makes me a little bit emotional because I am I am very tough on myself. And when I encounter hard things, like that was hard, right? That week leading up to, it was really hard until Monday hit. Because when Monday hit, pre-week launched, and I was submerged in a community of people that you had told me to, hey, go look at the lives, go look at the community. The community's awesome. The people are great. And I was so busy creating that I never stopped to go jump in and feel them, right? I was there a little bit, but I was never really in it. And that first live on Monday, it freed me because I was like, wow, okay, wait, who cares? Literally, I got to a point where I'm like, who cares about everyone else outside of here? Like, all that matters is what's in this bubble. And this bubble is so appreciative and so
echo chamber
proud and ready, and they are on fire, right? But before, it was definitely, I felt the week before pre-launch is the same way I felt the weeks leading up to the summit, to the event, which when things get really hard for me and really heavy, and I start to
bored,
act out of fear and like desperation, right?
Like, again, I'll say this a million times. You had a small event at a venue where you talked about the stuff you always talk about on Instagram with people who love you. Why is that so difficult? And she had a team of people running everything so she could be the star of the show. Like, pick a different career. This obviously isn't something you're enjoying. You're making the challenge. You don't like it. You're crying. You're saying this is so hard. Why don't you just go work out at LA Fitness or something and be a trainer and make a ton of money and do what you want to do and drink your protein shakes and shill stuff on Instagram and just stop trying to be boss babe Rachel 2.0. But I think the answer is she knows Dave is attracted to that type of energy of like, I'm going to start my own company for whatever reason. He's into that. I'm shocked that he is, but apparently he is. So she's trying to be Rachel and she hates it. She wasn't doing this stuff before Dave. She was just doing like, I don't know, Instagram shilling. I don't remember her. She was doing like vlogging and had a podcast and, you know, that stuff. But she wasn't putting pressure on having to have a team of people, you know, buy tablecloths for events. Like, this is all because of Dave coming around, and now she's trying to prove her worth to him. That's something you could work on in therapy. You don't have to live this life. No one's forcing you to.
Same way that you were with the book. Same way, because I was inside of it with you creating. We did the book tour, all those different things. And I remember I was your calming agent and you now are mine. In both situations, you were my calming agents the week leading up to the summit and the week before this. But there's something in my head these last 2 times. By far, Dave, you have seen me at my hardest, lowest, most doubtful, right? But also, these were the 2 biggest challenges probably of my professional life alone, because I've never done something of this magnitude alone.
Yeah.
And so there was a part of me that was like, if it's this hard, is it meant to be? And I even had said it to you both times. I said, I feel like if I'm trying to force this, it's not meant to be. And it's like, I'm like force versus flow. How do you know the difference when you're forcing something that's not meant to be? And when something's just hard and it's a challenge that you're meant to overcome, I could not figure it out in the moment. And I actually think I said, I hate this. I hate this. In both instances, like I hate, this is that pressure, that not feeling enough was so freaking hard for me.
Yeah.
It's probably a good indication if you're saying, I hate this, you probably don't love it. Some things are hard, but don't have to be unnecessarily hard. If you don't like it, this is all in your control. Do this last one, cut your losses, and move on. I'm sure she's still getting, alimony checks. She's getting child support from somebody, I would imagine. So just do something else. There's a million other things to do. Why put yourself through this?
And now in both instances, keeping going, because I had to, because I had people who were counting on me. It made it super clear on the other side when I could focus on what mattered. Same at the summit, when I was focused on ego-based things. How am I going to look? Like, what if they don't like me? It was all, am I enough? All things about me. I don't think why do they want me to lead this? All these different things that were in my head that were ego-based. It wasn't until I got rid of it.
Why do they want you to lead this? Well, because you created it and your face is all over it because you chose to do it that way. So that's a pretty good assumption as to why they want you to lead it. Who else is supposed to lead the show up with Heidi Powell summit? Dave? He was there for you there, which was awkward because he had literally just gotten out of rehab. So I think he probably should have stayed home for that one, but that apparently wasn't an option.
And I was actually able to push that aside and feel them and be like, oh, I'm here for them.
Yeah.
I'm not here for me.
Yeah.
I'm here for them.
No, this whole game is a game of ego having to die. And it's embarrassing for me to think back to October.
Good.
Because it is so apparent now how ego overrode this thing that was meant to be beautiful. This thing I still have so much pride in what was created, and my ego ruined it.
Can I say though, I think a lot of people don't, they only hear the word ego and think of it one way. Like, I have an ego. I like that, right? But ego is also the part of you that is insecure, that is saying, I don't know if I'm going to be enough. Like, I'm not enough. What do I need to do to win their like, that is ego, right?
Yeah.
Like, so ego is not just like bravado and pomp. Like, it's not an arrogant person. It can be, but also like your ego and stripping away is the part of you that's protecting you from looking bad. And it can show up in so many different ways, right?
Oh yeah.
Says who?
The thing is, like, the crazy live I wish I hadn't done was as much passion as it was scary, like scared me. And it still is just like the worst look. It's like the most embarrassing thing I've ever done professionally. And yet it was like both sides of that sword of ego. It was the thing, like, I believe so much in this that I'll do literally anything to try and convince you of it. But when that's not managed, when that isn't handled in a way that doesn't make it feel desperate and ridiculous and
and on no sleep too. When you're not sleeping, you're not thinking.
So I didn't get to this part of the podcast. I'm glad that I wish he would. Here's my two. I'll give the balanced answer. I wish he would acknowledge and address what actually happened more than this vague, this moment I was very angry and something happened. So if you didn't watch like the video I made or the video I think Savvy made a video too, you might not even know what he's talking about, and he's fine with that. I wish he would say, I said this, and this that I regret, and actually list them out and explain. Like there's, it's very vague. Like, oh, the time that I was too angry, and then there's all this caveats too of like, well, you were tired. Well, you were so passionate. So it's also then like lessening like the burden. Like, well, he just cares so much, and that's why this happened and whatever. But I'm glad that he's at least embarrassed. At least he's admitting something happened. I just wish that there was more specifics. And same thing when Rachel did her apology interview with the Skinny Confidential. She didn't, they talked about it in such a vague way. They should have played the clip and like talked it through, and then people could feel better about it. But when you say like this thing that happened in 20, everyone knows what happened. Like, no, not everyone does. And just talking about in this like very high level way, it's hard to really understand what part of it he's referring to. But again, I'm glad that he's at least admitting some guilt about it.
Right.
No. I mean,
you can't see the forest through the trees.
The thing is, I don't even want to make excuses, because it's just like, just because I did run myself into the ground and then decided to do a live after not sleeping for a couple of days, it doesn't make
couple
okay.
of days.
Like, it's still ridiculous. And yet,
you didn't sleep for a couple of days? Okay.
Existed because I was trying so hard to outrun my own self-doubt. I was trying so hard to outrun the worry that I might be exposed as having only had the success that I experienced in 2019, whatever year, 2020. Sorry, 2020. Yeah. Gosh, 2020. Because of not the thing I wrote, not the talent that I possess.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the comments about Heidi. Yeah, Heidi is acting like she was, not on board with his behavior, and that she saw it. She didn't say this, but it seems like she's like, oh yeah, like I totally am on board with your interpretation of how embarrassing that was. Meanwhile, she reposted the live. She's like, this is the most real and authentic Dave has ever been. He's hilarious. So she's really changed her tune now, or she's like, oh yeah, like you were just really tired. That's why you had that hiccup in your life. It's like, okay, you said it was like really amazing and beautiful and so funny. It's like, what's changed? It's the same shit.
Or my ability to write or speak, but because of other factors that now that they were gone would reveal that I had no talent. And the thing is, I know that there was a boost. I know that there was help. I know that like the aftermath of our marriage coming apart left so many people frustrated and disappointed. And yeah, guess what? I was among them. And so of course the atmosphere was going to be different, but the thing that...
Then here's my advice, Dave, retroactive advice. Don't write a book where you dishonestly say you've overcome all these issues by sitting on a rock in Arizona and writing in a journal for 5 seconds, because that's not what you did. You might have done that, but obviously it did not solve your problems, because here we are, okay, 2 years later, still talking about issues relating to this. You're not above everyone else. 99.9% of people are going to go through divorce, especially when you're not the one wanting it, and are going to experience all these emotions. There's nothing wrong with it, but don't lie to your audience. I know they see their audience as customers, but that's the problem. You're in a space where you're dealing with mental health, vulnerability, personal issues, passion and desire, all these things that are very, human emotion based. He's not a mental health professional. So, you got to tread very lightly in these spaces. Yet he's willing to lie to his audience to sell something, to prove that he is worthy without Rachel. Like, that's selfish. And that's the part that I have a problem with, that they are willing to sacrifice your health, your truth, your view of the world by not that it's going to, change your world, but it could to one person who reads the book and goes, oh my gosh, this is how life is. I haven't gotten over my divorce. This guy has in 2 seconds. Oh, it must be something wrong with me. You got to take the time to learn the lessons first, and then present them. That's respecting your audience. They don't respect. They just like whatever thought they have, they'll just blurt it out. If it's good enough for me in this moment, it must be good enough for you. And then I can just change it in 5 seconds later if I choose. It's like, that's so not cool.
Running in the voice of my critic was a very mean soundtrack. It was a very, very unkind voice that was telling me that I wasn't good enough to even write a book in the first place. And I, in that kind of fight or flight state, was doing a little bit of both. Like my fight was like, I'll outwork this. And it wasn't a thing to try and outwork. It was a thing to try and release.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a whole different podcast in and of itself, because there are really terrible voices online. There are. And I think they, in part, those terrible voices were maybe part of what you were trying to outrun too, because you let those, for a minute, you let those terrible voices be your voice. Like you almost took on what they were saying as what you thought, right?
Yeah.
And I think there was some outrunning of that. And I mean,
maybe Dave was seeing the truth. Maybe Heidi is the toxic positivity Rachel equivalent here in this situation. You know, Dave, despite having a very privileged life, you know, from what I can tell, basically getting a lot of things fairly frictionlessly, you know, went to college, seems to have a good family life. I don't know. He never talks about this in depth. He's written 2 books. I don't really know much about his childhood at all. But, you know, seemingly he's done well for himself in this world. But he's also worked in a regular environment, a corporate environment where he's had people demand things of him. He's, you know, worked his way up. He didn't become an executive overnight. So maybe he has a little bit more real world experience than a Heidi, than a Rachel, who kind of have been in this like utopia influencer. I run an events company for my, you know, rich husband kind of world. So maybe he does have an inkling of like consciousness, or not like conscious, you know, like Jiminy Cricket's on his shoulder like, hey, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe they're saying that I should take a step back and maybe I should listen to that. This video online had, you know, was harsh and mean, and it's hard to look at that. But, you know, the points that they made aren't horrible. Maybe. And maybe the women in his life, I'm not saying that they're responsible for his actions. He's a grown man. He can do what he wants. But maybe he tipped himself over because the other voice, the partner he's choosing to be with, is like, and maybe that's why he chooses those partners, are like, no, you're perfect. You're perfect, and there's nothing to change. Ever, ever, ever. There's something's wrong with them. It's like, okay.
The internet bullying, that's like maybe needs to be our next podcast, because I got things to say to them.
We'll have to do
oh, I can't wait. Internet bullying podcast, please. Let's do it. I feel like I'm the number one internet bully of them right now, I would imagine. So that it's not going to bode well for me. I hope they name me too. That'd be awesome.
Warning for language when we do that, because of how I know you and I feel.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm just going to say it in a nutshell. Then I'm going to be really careful with my words.
And juicy.
But the reality is, people who are purposely and intentionally mean, malicious online, plant seeds of depression, sadness, insecurity, and fear in innocent people.
Okay. The seeds have been there a long ass time before I even got on YouTube, before I even created an account, before probably anyone that covers the Hollises or the Powells have had. So I know what she's trying to say. Like, it's not helping mental health. And I tend to agree. If I was Dave, I don't think I would like this much analysis. It would be hard to watch. But you're also in a career where you're putting your work up for scrutiny, and you've chosen a field that deals with these very serious issues. So I have every single right to point out what I think is wrong about it. Sorry, get a job somewhere else if you don't want to do that. If you can't handle it. Like, no one's forcing you here.
I'm sorry that you don't have a job.
I'm sorry that you've chosen a job in which you are the star and you use your life as the example. I'm sorry, Heidi, that you put yourself on the cover of every single workout that you do, but that's also your choice. I'm sorry that you're now going and trying to teach people about trauma at an event space in Arizona, but that's not my choice. My choice is to sit here and take the criticism that, yeah, I understand it could be seen as a negative, but I'm willing to bear that judgment from them and from anyone else because I think it's important. And I don't think that their message should go uncriticized. Can I get an amen? All right.
Maybe not strong enough in that way. And we all have insecurities. We all have weaknesses, and they feed on that, right?
Yeah.
A parasite is something that like eats the life of something else, right? So those, in my mind, like they are actually very comparable to a parasite. They are actually eating and killing off life in somebody else because they.
Okay. I'm mean, but that was meaner than like anything I've ever said. And she's not calling me out specifically, but like I'm obviously one of the people who she's speaking of. A parasite? I try to give like I give biased advice because obviously I have my opinions about the whole industry and them specifically as like the leaders and the most hypocritical of all that I've found. But come on. I'm not trying to hurt their feelings. I'm trying to point out things about their messages that I think are unhealthy for people to hear all the time. To be shoved down our throats, as Heidi would say. All right, I'll continue.
In someone's head. And they grow that fear, that self-doubt, that insecurity to places that actually cause humans to ruin their own life because they begin to believe what those internet bullies are saying. They are responsible for suicide, like many suicides.
Yeah.
What? Whoa. What are you talking about? Are you serious? I don't even know what to, I'm speechless. Thank you for the donation. Oh my God. Okay. Mandy Lee, thank you so much. Thank you for sending that maliciously to me. I appreciate that. Wow. Okay. We need a break from that horrendous comment from Heidi. Here, let's play a song just to like lighten the mood a second.
Why do you follow me if you don't already own my book?
Because I want to force you to the edge, Dave. That's my goal here. Okay, in case this wasn't already obscenely expressed by me, that is not my intention. Ever in a million years do I ever wish harm on anybody. Ever. Not one person, not Rachel, not Dave. I even said I wish and hope they continue to put their content out for as long as they want to. I have no censoring of them. I don't want to stop them from doing anything. All I want to do is express myself about their message. And if they were writing about a company, if they were running a company, it's like, I'm not going to go in Jeff Bezos' life and go, oh, his childhood, blah, 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 Jeff Bezos, and then say, well, that's because Amazon bothers me. That's not Jeff Bezos' his business is not his life. But Dave and Rachel and Heidi have made their life stories their business. That's not my fault. And to say like, oh, the internet bullies are causing many suicides. Do you know what online bullying is? You are not the recipient of online bullying, at least from people like me. Maybe they're getting it through like text or something that I'm not aware of. But the ones that they say like, oh, people didn't like my book. People didn't like my booty workouts and they didn't buy the $4,000. Like, get over it and get out of this business. That's my advice. I'm like, I'm shooketh, as they say, from that statement, that I'm now supposed to hold and harbor that guilt. That's, this is not to be like totally, as I start to tell a personal life story, my mom and I have a very difficult relationship. I've talked about it a tiny bit here and there, but there was something similar to that where it was like, you're going to force me to do something. And I'm like, that is unfair. I'm not putting anything like if something were to happen between them or whatever, that is not on me. I could have some guilt about it, but every person, as they would teach, makes their own choices in life. And to say like, oh, well, I'm out of control because this person was mean to me online is unfair. Because what we're just supposed to censor? I don't know. I'm like going off because I'm so shocked by this. Okay, let's continue listening. I'm sorry. I need a second. Okay.
Really think about that. And when you go look at these internet trolls, if you actually click, right? What's interesting to me is their bios usually say devout follower of Christ, or Jesus lover, or
not me,
faithful mother and wife, right? Which is great. And I love that. But I think if we actually followed the ways of Christ, we wouldn't indirectly cause suicidal ideation, to be at an all-time high. And that's what's happening. And I actually believe if these...
That's not the same thing, Heidi. If you were to put, I don't know, whatever. Okay.
We'll stop these moms who are holding their sons proudly, right? I see so many pictures, and it's usually women that I've seen on your stuff. It is really sad to think that that woman's son or daughter or grandson, there's a lot of grandmas too, might be the victim of someone bullying them the way that they are currently bullying somebody else.
Yeah.
And when that happens, like my heart hurts for that person because they are about to feel what they caused somebody else to feel.
Wait, what? Hold on. I missed that.
Are currently bullying somebody else.
Yeah.
Son.
Wait, what?
Or daughter or grandson. There's a lot of grandmas too. Might be the victim of someone bullying them the way that they are currently.
Okay, the hurt people. What she's talking about, maybe she's got some other, maybe I'm taking it personally and I shouldn't. Maybe there's like people who are saying nasty things to them privately. I've never messaged them privately ever. Never had any interaction with Heidi, never had any interaction with Rachel, never had any interaction with Dave other than I said on Dave's picture he posted Noah and said, it was a picture of Noah and it was like, vote on which meme this should be. And I said, why don't you just spend time with your daughter? That was the only interaction I've ever had with Dave and he blocked me immediately. Other than that, this is content that I've produced outside of them. If they're interested and curious and want to watch it, that's on them. Sorry. So I don't know who she's actually speaking to, what type of bully. Maybe I'm thinking that they're talking about me and they don't even know I exist and this channel exists, which would be great because I don't want to be held responsible for anything in that way. I think, critiquing, I think, again, if this was someone's personal life story, they were not profiting from it. That's very different. They're fine with you, obsessively listening to everything that they say if you buy from them and if you believe it's positive. But the second that you're critical, oh no, now it's not acceptable. That's unfair, I think. Put out a better product then. Okay, so she's saying that, the grandmothers who are bullying her are being bullied themselves. Okay.
Bullying somebody else.
Yeah.
And when that happens, like my heart hurts for that person because they are about to feel,
I'm sure,
what they caused somebody else to feel, right? And I'm not saying parasite to be mean. It just is. If you look up the definition of a parasite, like they are eating and sucking life. And here's the thing though, I don't think I would change it. I would never change it. I think I only want to help people love themselves enough to overcome it and like get through it.
Okay, so I'm going to send an email to Dave and Heidi. I'm going to ask them to come on the show because what they're saying right now is they want to help people like me see the light and, become evangelized to their beliefs. I think there's a small percent chance they might say yes, just given how their content is really geared towards this negativity, is their woe and whatever. So I'll let you know how it goes. I've been playing with the idea for a while, but again, I was like, I don't know if I should even bridge that gap because I like to keep it separate and I don't want to bring attention to this for them to look at it if they're not aware of it. But it seems like they're chomping at the bit to have some sort of meaningful discussion. So let's try. I'll let you know how it goes.
because it's important and people are strong enough. And actually, those people have freaking made me stronger. They have helped me see the value in life and that I am actually way too good to care about what they say, right? And they're slowly doing the same thing for you, right? But and I believe that darkness needs.
So then actually what you're saying is it's helped you. Okay.
To exist in the balance of light. And I think it's heavy in your life, Dave. And it's heavy in mine in ways, right? I don't really see it all the time because there's so much light. You have so much good. If you didn't, they wouldn't care. Like, think if you weren't someone that they were interested in, they wouldn't be interested in you. They wouldn't be there. And so to anyone experiencing bullying or hate in any way, remember that.
Yeah.
Like, if you weren't great.
It's not Dave's light that bugs me. It's the hypocrisy. It's the lying. It's the trying to appear perfect to sell merchandise and in reality being just like everybody else and it being very satisfying to experience that. As someone who has to live with being like everybody else, to see someone who sees himself as so much higher get knocked down a couple pegs, to me, is satisfying. Sorry, maybe I'm a demon child. I don't know, but that's how I feel.
Wouldn't be here.
Yeah, well, I think it's hard because I don't like to have to admit that serving up such a cherry on top opportunity for people who already were waiting to be critical in the way that I did back in October was something that I wasn't strong enough to handle, but I wasn't strong enough to handle it. Like, it absolutely 100% is complicit in all of the things that have unwound being unwound.
The thing is, too, it's like, why are you watching it? If you're so above it, why are you watching this stuff? Why are you opening the DMs? Why are you, I know I kind of criticize Rachel for the same thing I'm telling them to do, but if it bothers them so much, just post and sign off or don't post at all. This is becoming a big problem. I mean, there's people who get much more hate than these two on the internet and they don't care. So maybe this is an indication. Like okay, here's an example. What's her name? She was on Frenemies. And she deserves a lot of, not the bullying, but she deserves a lot of criticism. What's her name? It's not Tyra. You know what I'm talking about. God, I have to look it up now. This is embarrassing that I don't know her name. Frenemies, the H3 podcast. Who was it? What the heck? Trisha Paytas. Okay. Trisha Paytas gets more hate on the internet than Dave and Heidi. And she's okay with it. Manifesting DNH in Kia's world. Yeah, it can happen. We just have to call upon
my guardian angels, my spirit guides.
The scene has been set. I think that was a plattered response from Heidi to serve that up, to open the conversation. We'll see. You know, I have a background in journalism. I've interviewed people more famous than Dave and Heidi. You know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. And it was not about negative things. It was about a restaurant. Oh, I interviewed Guy Fieri one time. Okay, let me just be honest about it, making it seem like I talked to George Clooney on the regular. I interviewed Guy Fieri one time because he was opening a new restaurant and he was in town. And that was the highlight of my life. So I can handle Dave and Heidi. That's what I mean to say. All right, keep going.
And in a crazy way, you know, I have talked about the kind of the breakdown or the mania or the whatever as a thing that I originally thought, you know, was the end of my career, the end of life. And it truly was a thing that I think helped save my life in beautiful ways.
It did. Yeah.
But I don't, you know, I'm still not back on social media in part because I've learned a ton about the ridiculousness of those that would spend their time trying to dismantle and attack people who are trying to do good. And I also am not yet immune totally from the way that it still has some kind of an effect. I don't know. I'm way better than I was, but I also am do I really want to do work in a public way if the price of entry is people, because I just think, here's the thing. I think there's normal criticism, and then there's like galvanizing an army of people to be like just intentionally, mercilessly, like it has an effect on my family. I'm interested in
who they all. I hate to say that, but like a lot of people who get canceled, they bring up like the family card, like, well, my family's affected. Like how? Well, because I'm depressed all the time. It's like, well, that's also, that also comes back to you, kind of, go take care of that. But like, I hope that, I don't know who he's talking about, who they're talking about. Like grandma, bully grandma, is not me, obviously. So maybe, maybe my criticisms are acceptable to them. I doubt it. But I never want an army of people to go attack them. I just want us to have our space to be able to discuss these things in a healthy way, because I feel like when people aren't able to express themselves, like the Reddit group for about Hollis's have made me feel so much better, because for so long I felt like, oh my God, something's wrong with me. I just can't get into it. I can't I don't know. Something's off, something's wrong. And then when other people agreed, it made me feel so much better. I was like, oh God. And I don't know, the lessons I've learned by watching what not to do has helped me. So, but then I don't know. It's like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Like just be ashamed of it all the time and just be like, oh, well, I guess I'm a horrible person because this could affect Dave's children. But I don't know how. I guess I need to explain more about how it's affecting their children or the family, what that means. And also, if you're really about protecting your family, you really put them out on the internet a lot. And whose fault is that? Yours. Take some responsibility for that. Like you had a Noah's jumping up and down in a Noah or tea time with Noah, in little dresses and stuff, and people know what city she lives in, and she's on live streams and she's in pictures. And is that safe? No, it's not. Your son's in videos. He's 9 years old. You're talking about which camp he goes to. You're talking about where he goes to school, what his friends' names are. That's not safe. They're showing them when they're in Arizona, when they're in Austin. Heidi's kids are constantly on the internet. Heidi posted a video of her daughter shaking her butt at the camera. People are saying, take this down. The internet's perverse. And she's like, oh, I have rose-colored glasses. Ha, 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 he, he, he. Who's responsible? The parents are responsible. So as I'm saying this, I'm like taking back even more responsibility, because it's like, I wouldn't even know these kids at all. You're the one who constantly puts them in your content and sells against it. You wrote a fucking book about your daughter and your tea time YouTube show. Whose fault is that? Yours, Dave. Not mine.
I'm interested in preserving mental health. And I also know that I've been put here for a reason that is to be light. And so I'm going to continue to do the work, but take the time that it takes to build the shell so that I'm not able to be pulled back by or distracted by people who are just here to be hateful. It's like, I don't know.
You get to pick who you...
Maybe, and again, I'm speaking for all of the internet haters, and I don't want to do that because I don't know what people are doing secretly or in their emails or whatever. I don't know. So I can only speak for myself. So my purpose on earth, I don't think about it in such a deep and God put me here for this reason, one reason only, to be a light. Like, I don't think like that. But I do think this work does have purpose. It allows people who aren't interested in going to an arena and going, woo, my life is going to be awesome. I'm going to manifest money. Woo, I'm going to get my marriage on track by listening to this person is unqualified and her husband. Woo, I just think that's important to point out, that there's people who aren't trying to sell you a course every 5 seconds and allow us to talk about how it makes us feel. I don't think it's, they're saying oh, everyone has a purpose. Okay, why can't I have my purpose? You're the only people allowed to have purpose, and your purpose is to sell books and booty workouts? That's convenient.
Who you give your energy to, who you surround yourself with. And I also know that there are ways to create barriers to not let someone else's energy penetrate you. I know it. And I know I've experienced that myself, and that that right now is not the time for you to go back, to acknowledge it, and to follow your knowing is huge. And it's not to say that it won't ever be, but as you are gaining strength and as you're working on parts of you that you didn't know were hurt or wounded, right? That you are keeping yourself in a safe situation is awesome. Like that's something I wish more people had oh boy, card turned off. I wish more people had the courage to do that.
Of course, she's in the car.
And so it's great. And I do want to say too, it did affect me for a bit more than anything, and my family, but more than anything because I started to
she's another one again. Like she puts her family online constantly. If you really care about your family being bullied or whatever, she tags her kids' accounts like all the time. You're guiding the bullies right to the door front of your home. Whatever.
Know you, and I'm going to talk about this now. I hope this is okay.
Uh-oh.
I know you better than just about anyone, if not anyone at this point, because I know the current you.
You've known each other for a year, okay?
And what's interesting is what people would say to my family, and then they'd report to me because they'd create a story in my family's minds about you, and that they didn't know you, right? They knew you, but they're like, now this stranger story, because it was read on the internet, was told to them, and then they told it, and they had totally created a story around who you were and mentioned it to me, and I knew the inconsistency in what was said versus reality, but it still planted a seed of now my family doesn't want, like, that was the hardest part for me. Until it got to the point where I was like, and here's the thing, it was great because it was part of what allowed us to go our separate journeys to work on us. And like you and I both said, okay, we don't have the strength right now, the time, the bandwidth to deal with all of it. So let's work on us, let's let everything settle. And it was the greatest thing because I also got a chance to be like, I know him. Yeah. I know that 90% of what I hear is not true. I know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know, not that there's any, but like, I know your heart. I know who you are. To the point where I don't.
No, you don't. No one knows anyone else's heart. They could say that, and especially somebody you've met like within, I guess, like 2 years technically of knowing somebody. So yeah, you can think. Of course, that's like the honeymoon period. Oh yeah, I know everything about you. It's like, okay, give it 10 years, give it 20 years. Look at Dave and Rachel. They just broke up after 20 years or whatever, and it's like, I didn't even know any of this, or he had a soul secret life and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, I don't buy it, number one. Number two, it's like, what has been lied about? Again, from my side, everything I talk about is from their own words and giving my opinion about it. How I feel about those words. How I feel about the words versus what their actions are. So what am I missing? Oh, that his intentions are good? I never said his intentions weren't good. Intentions and impact, I think that was what Rachel's friend said. Intentions and impact are two different things, and no one's going to be judged on intentions, especially when something goes bad. So that's life. That's everybody. That's not just you and Heidi.
Believe what anybody else says about you because I'm the one who gets to be with you.
Yeah.
I'm the one. No one else gets it. I do.
Yeah. It's hard because there's always this like camp that's like, don't give power to the trolls by even acknowledging that they exist. But
smarter. Without
this sounding like hyperbole, I mean, I was in a dark place.
Yeah.
And
so why are you, I mean, I'm sorry for that. Like, I'm sorry. That he's experiencing that. I was also in many dark places, and reading, get over it material from you and your wife did not help me. So, who's going to be accountable for that?
A vulnerable, and like a very honest and vulnerable and raw dark place. Let me say that, like, not in a dark place like you were a bad person. You were a beautiful soul that was in a low place.
Yeah, and that in a dark place, that there would still be this joy
Yeah.
that would come from some dark part of the internet to like kick someone when they're down. That I don't understand.
Kick someone when they're down. You live in a giant mansion on a giant property with a giant gym, with a go-kart track, with a New York Times best-selling book #1. You have money. You are a Disney executive. Okay, some people were critical of your book because it sucked. I'm sorry. It was not a good book. Your cadence is weird. Your writing is long. It doesn't make sense. There was pictures that you took from Facebook and had somebody outline them. It was sloppy. How you take that is your own perception, but as an author, there should be no new, information. And if you go and read Reddit, and if you go and look for this information about yourself, that's also something you need to control.
And
No.
I don't understand.
And you're never going to.
And I'm never going to. And like the faceless nature of, burner accounts being mean it's a thing I just am never, ever going to understand. And
I don't know about that.
I still, in that compromised state, was affected by it is something that I get bummed about, but I also it's it's just a human thing, like I am building, again, I'm going to try and build like a strength and a whatever to be able to weather whatever someone wants to sling my way. Like the more, like I will say this, like being away from social and being, away from all of it, like there is some objectivity that comes in how ridiculous
That's the thing.
any of it ends up being.
Again, I don't know about these burner accounts. I don't know, and I wish they would go into detail so we could actually comprehend like what they mean. But again, we're talking at this high level about trolls and haters, and we've heard what they think trolls and haters are, so it lends itself to believe that they're talking about people with actual criticism. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, I am so nice at all times. I've never said a mean thing about Dave or Heidi. Of course I have. But the same thing that even in his book, I wish I have it in my room, but I don't know what page it's on, but he literally says the price of entry into this life that I live, it's something like that, is critics, is people who won't like my stuff. And it's hard, but I understand it. That's the ticket of entry. Okay, so he's self-aware enough to put that in the book, but not self-aware enough to not follow the advice to protect his mental health, which he also says he's very, caring about. It's just, a lot of people go through life, especially if you're, as a young person, and people, in the LGBTQ community have to figure this out much earlier. People who are different, have disabilities, have things going on that make them different at a younger age. You don't think that they have to go through this stuff like at 7 years old? I'm not saying it changes it, but this is nothing new, and I don't think it's right, but Dave and Heidi are not the first people to deal with people who are misunderstanding them or not appreciating their God-given gifts and all of that stuff. It's like they act like they're victimized alone. Like they're the only ones that deal with it. And I saw someone commented, said, we tried to warn you in a way. Like he talked about a build up to like the big demise of when he did the Pancake Gate. But if you watch those videos back, he could have if he watched them, which I guess he did, he could have taken action to go, you know what, maybe they're right. Maybe there's an inkling of something here. Like, yes, it's rude or whatever, but maybe I am moving too fast. Maybe I am trying to give advice where it's not my place. And maybe could have taken a step back, or maybe if this book doesn't do well, who cares? But no, they think that they're the smartest, that they're the leaders, but then if anyone criticizes them, oh, hater, horrible, awful. It's just it's lack of accountability in a lot of ways, and it's a lack of rational thought. Like, do you really think these evil people are out to get you? Just you? You know who actually I have less respect for that I think they should all is their friends. How about the guy who Dave was doing the live streams with, John? Someone tell me what his name was. John something. and they were doing the live streams. The second that Dave did Pancake Gate, that guy was gone. That guy came back once or something and was weird on the live stream and then never came back. What about that guy who pretended to be your friend when he got money for it or got, cross promotion, and then the second you messed up, kicked you to the curb? That's who I would be holding accountable. The people who lied to your face. I never once said, oh, I love Dave Hollis. He's so amazing. He's such a great guy. Oh my gosh. And then turned my back. I was honest from the beginning. And again, I think they're, speaking about people like harassing them, and that's not okay. I don't condone that at all. But defending myself here, in case anyone goes out and goes, oh my God, you're so horrible. Dave's going to, do something crazy because of your videos. I just don't think that's a fair assessment. Okay, enough of me. Bye. Sorry. That was a lot.
Part of how I'm healing from it, like any kind of proximity to the toxicity makes it feel more real than it is. It's not real when you're not there. No. But I still
and I've never seen a person come up to you and say anything negative ever. You know why? Because they don't have the balls to. So the reality is, if they're not going to say it to your face and they're going to go hide online.
I mean, I don't want to harass Dave. Are you saying that you prefer that? That's the thing. You don't have the balls to. It's like, would you want that? Like, what are you asking for? The thing with Heidi is she always has to, and she's very much like Rachel in this sense, probably because she took that from her or copied it from her, is, to say like, this is horrible, this is awful, but I personally got stronger from it. I don't want the haters, but like, they don't have the balls to come up and say, it's like, so what are you actually asking for? So what you're saying is all of this horrible stuff that happened, the hard made you better. So you're asking for more hard, right? That's what you want because you love being better. It kind of negates any of the valid points that she had along the way.
It's not worth hearing because they're not somebody that they're not somebody whose opinion matters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, anyway,
why not?
Finding a way to get back to that voice memo I sent you is the thing I would say, which is like, man, did you put every single thing into this? Are you proud of the work that you've done?
Yes.
Are you in a place where the work is going to be received by the people to whom it was meant to be received? If you can answer affirmative to those things, release yourself from the work.
But he couldn't be affirmative to that. He had thousands of people buy the book and it wasn't good enough for him, not for us. We were saying that's enough. You don't have to have a meltdown to prove that you're better. So the lesson that you learned, we were trying to convey. So you're welcome. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting personally triggered here.
And if people want to be critical of it, it's not for them. I've said it so many times.
I agree.
But in a weird way, like the gift of going through everything is, got to learn things the hard way. Like I've got a great learning that any other thing that I create, any other thing that I do, it's likely to be criticized. It's just a guarantee. It's just a guarantee.
Yeah.
And even as it is, it takes nothing away from the work or the creator. It takes nothing away from any of it. The only thing that could ruin it is if I start listening more to the voice of the critic than the voice of the recipient, who's already represented over and over how appreciative they are of the work. And that's the same thing that's happening inside of this community. The people who have had an experience inside of it universally are just blown away by what it is to be inside of the space. And any pressure that you were putting on yourself to make sure you got as many people into it, in some ways discounts what already is success in it existing in the first place.
The thing, and that day, Saturday or whatever day it was, I don't remember, but I remember like going into the community and having an automatic shift of like, and I had even said, I sent a text to someone, I said, no, it's already a success. It is, because getting in and connecting with the good that is being done in there, not because of me, because of my team.
The only person who knows it's not a success is Heidi, and she's the one publicly saying that it's not a success, or like that she's upset about the number, but she's accepting it. Based on her Instagram, I would have no idea. It looks like she's got a ton of people in there, more than I think would actually join. So I'm pleasantly like, oh, wow, okay. Seems to be working for her. But she's, again, doing what Dave did at Pancake Gate. Oh, that little amount of people, to them, it's like not significant enough. So now they're going to be mad about it, but then have to convince themselves they're okay with it. This is a you problem. Once again, you're not appreciating the people who are giving you a chance and are sticking by you despite a lot of controversy.
The kind of people that this is attracted because of who they are, because of, I mean, the life, like there is a liveness in this community, and there's love and there's support. Like that to me suddenly had me realizing we've already succeeded. And we were a week away from launch,
Yeah.
right? So like we still were going, and it was a success. And to what you were saying about, you know, the other thing, I realized too that every single person that I admire, if anyone here thinks of who they admire and respect and whose work is like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have that, like that person right there, their work has changed my life and what they've done or their books, every single one.
Mune Cat. That's who I would say. Who else? I don't know. That's it. No, Cam, Savvy, Mac, Cruel World, Happy Mind. Okay, bye.
One of them. Every single one has endured and still endures intense criticism and a lot of hate.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that person would have stopped because someone criticized them or because a hate site grabbed onto them? Like, think of the number of lives that would not have been changed, positively impacted, you know, self-love created if that person would have been like, oh my gosh, someone hates my work and hates me, I'm going to stop. And I think everyone should remember that. Like when we're all going to have, I'm going to have people that don't like me. I don't freaking care.
Yeah.
Because I know.
You do care, but I mean, that's everybody. You ain't going to please all the people all the time. You can't, no matter what. I always say, like, if you want to think anything you say, 50% of the people are going to like it, 50% of people aren't. That's how I think about it. And maybe that's untrue, probably, you know, if you said something completely crazy. But there will always still be people that go, yeah, what you said was great. You know, like Charles Manson, for example. You know, most people didn't like him, but he had people show up at the courthouse and support him. People wrote Ted Bundy, you know, love letters for years. There's always going to be people who support you no matter what crazy stuff you do. So we're all free, right? You can't please them all, though. That's too greedy.
That I'm put on this earth to help at least these people in this community and at least my kids and at least myself.
Good.
By the fulfillment that comes with what I get to do. So I don't care if 90% of the people in this world don't like me. If these 10% love and appreciate what I'm doing and it's making their life better, this is what I'm going to do.
And you're also going to have...
Who's not wanting you to do that? I'm totally fine on board with it. I think any hater would be like, yeah, of course. Like, that's great. No. You should try to get 100% of people to like you at all times, or else you're not a caring person. Okay. Don't think anyone would say that.
It's like Saturday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to quit.
Yeah. And you're also, but it's just like part of the human experience. Like,
I'm going to get through it.
Yeah, and you're going to get through it.
Come out the other side and be glad that I didn't quit.
Yeah. Me too. All right. Good work.
Thanks.
All right. Challenge starts today.
Oh, yes.
Welcome.
Welcome. We're excited about this.
All right. That's a long bonus episode, but that's what happens when we go on a daytime date in a car with overalls on and just start talking and see where the conversation leads. This Thursday.
They're so weird, too. Like, why don't you guys go to dinner and just enjoy each other's company? I don't think they want to spend time alone. That seems to be the general theme here, is that they'd rather crash a stranger's wedding than, you know, talk to one another. So, like, they're going on date night, yet they record a 40-minute podcast instead talking about how horrible haters are. It just seems like a stupid waste of your time, especially when you don't care at all. I'm glad for you, but it seems like you're spending 40 minutes of time that you could be enjoying life, giving me a life.
It's giving me life.
You know, but what do I know? I'm just a hater troll. And I don't know if they're referring to me or not, but I hope not. I don't want them to hate me. I don't want them to hate me, but Heidi told me that.
It's okay to cry.
So I'll be okay. Also,
I am not emotionally stable.
that's what Dave told you. I didn't say that. Dave said that about you, Heidi. Anyways, we've been going for 3.5 hours. That's about time. A good time to wrap. Yeah, and they're just best friends, guys. They're not dating.
We're best friends.
That's what they share with their followers, that they're just best friends and that we're all idiots. I don't know. That was a lot. That was pretty heavy. I was not expecting that, to have to go on the defense. I just got more comfortable feeling like, like at first I was like, maybe this is too much. And not that I felt like I'm bullying them too much, but I'm like, maybe this is too much content. Maybe this is too much analysis, because like I've joked, but I do believe that people have been threatened before to be sued because of, defamation of character or whatever. I try to be very careful to say, I never will bring up anything that someone privately tells me, or I heard this or I heard that. Like, I'll never say that on a live. I only talk about what they've publicly shared, and I always try to say, I think, my thought, I believe, this is what my take. I very consciously try to always give my attribution so I can take on the judgment of that. So if someone doesn't like my thought or my prediction or whatever, then that's on me. Judge me for that, not them. And so I try to be careful. And there's people that have YouTube channels that are mean, I think, and are take things too far, not with them specifically, but just generally, or make accusations like, I don't know if he's on anymore, but like a Keemstar. Like, I don't think I'm a Keemstar. And just calling people out and saying, this is true and I know it. It's like, I would never. I've done controversial topics before, but I present the evidence that I saw and then say, but, you never know. And even in a court, you're innocent until proven guilty, until the judge makes a call, the jury makes a call. So until a case is finished, it's alleged. Even if there's a freaking video of it happening, it's alleged. Anyways, so I'll let you know how it goes with the reach out. Fingers crossed. I don't know. Like I said, I've been thinking about it. I don't think Rachel will ever do it, but there has always been a glimmer of hope for Dave to come around. And I've been trying to just, think about it strategically and if this is a good idea. But I think like this podcast, especially that they're going to talk about haters, might be a good way to, like I said, maybe there is a productive conversation to have here. Maybe there is between us all. And maybe we can reach some sort of agreement. And I'm all down for that. I feel like I'm a fairly reasonable person. But I can't explain why I'm so interested in all this stuff. And I think probably the 8,000 people who are on the Reddit thread too share some of that. And people here in the chat probably share some of that too. Like, I don't know what it is about this specific storyline, but there's always something to talk about. And I thought for a while that they were like, masterminding it themselves. And maybe Rachel is, where she drips out information to keep the haters engaged. But now I'm like, I just think that they believe a lot of the stuff they say, and it just comes off as like so grifty. They don't even see it because they're in the echo chamber of, oh, Jay Shetty's my friend, Mel Robbins is my friend. So they're all being gaslit by each other about what's acceptable behavior and what's not. And, at the end of the day, it's all about the money for these people, I think. And for a lot of people in any space, especially coaching and all that, a lot of it drives people to want to be millionaires. And, oh, Jeff Lerner's screaming in his car about how rich he is and all this stuff. And it's just like, so it's no shock that when someone actually makes it in the industry, they're driven by money, numbers, success, all the things that they were promised when they were devotees to a self-help person. Wow. We really did that, everybody. I mean, yeah, I see someone says, Dave will go on anyone's channel. I have more followers than a lot of the interviews he gave for Built Through Courage. So, and I was an actual book purchaser, a certified buyer. So, oh, thank you, Sarah. Sarah Beecherman? Or is it silent? Bierman. Let me know. I appreciate that. Public Service Award. PSA. Woo-hoo. So we'll leave it on a Dave note. Dave says this about that.
I love you.
Thank you. And, you know, just for the record, too, I've had to deal with not bullying and definitely not feeling the way that they've expressed about internet hate. But, you know, it's hard for everybody. It's hard for me to get 1,000 good comments and read one that's semi-critical or hey, you know, this is like someone commented today on like I was asking like what time is best for live streams in your opinion, and someone said, I don't know why you waste your time, you know, criticizing these influencers and the algorithm keeps serving me your stupid videos or something. And at first I was like, ow, like damn, you know, like it's for a minute or two it's like fuck. You know, what am I, oh God, like, I rethink everything. I'm like, should I just, maybe it's too much, you know? And then I'm like, you know, look at all the good ones. And also, it's okay. Look what I'm doing. Like, again, I have to take responsibility for it. But it's not easy for me either. I'm saying, like, I take responsibility. I accept the judgment, but it's not easy. So it's something you have to work on and practice and get past. And it's a work in progress, as Dave would say. I'm a work in progress too. So on that note, we appreciate it. Me and Dave appreciate it. He's with me sharing the studio in this duet podcast style. Cringefluencers is, I believe, happening on Thursday. Cam has been taking exams all week, so she's been a little busy. So we haven't. I don't think it's her. So we're going back and forth, picking topics, and so it's her week to pick a topic. So I will confirm that tomorrow on the community page on Cringefluencers, but 99% sure we're going to go with it. And the subject matter will be mystery, because I don't even know who it is yet, or what subject we're talking about. And as time goes on, you know, like I said, I got more time now. I said that a million times, but I actually do have a little bit more time now to create content. So new people are going to be highlighted. Medical Medium, Teal Swan. What's her face? Louise Hay. Gabby Bernstein. They're all coming. They're in the works. And then we'll go from there. So we can move on and give these daggone fellas, big guys a break. Unless they do something, and then of course I'll be back and talking about it. All right, and thank you for the lively chat. I'm sorry for the tech issues. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's my new soundboard. I'll have to look into it and play with it a little bit more. I didn't think that the audio would cause some sort of latency issue, but who knew? Okay, goodbye. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and go to sleep. Don't know why you need to know that, but here we are. Choose Sadness merch is in the description below, and I think we'll have to do a test, but I believe from now on, if you buy a shirt or a sticker or whatever during the stream, it should pop up and say your username bought, or your name, I guess. I don't know. Whatever you use on the purchase, it'll say you bought a shirt. So if you're waiting for that perfect moment to buy a shirt, maybe wait till the next podcast, or it's not a podcast, the next live stream, and then it could pop up on the screen in that fun ding-da-ding way. And if you don't know what Choose Sadness is, well, you're about to see a cool slideshow showing you all the products available. Not all of them, but some of them purchased by you and or me and taken a picture of. Okay, I'm leaving. I know it's midnight. Good night. It's been real. It's been fun. Peace.